No,
And again, if I'm him, I'm worried.
yeah, I was on a jury. I've mentioned this before. And the dynamics of any jury, I'm sure, depend on the people on that jury. But it's not like a lot of TV shows where you have a bunch of silent voting and that. You can discuss it out in the open. You can say what you want. But as you said, and this is the interesting part to me, no questions. And to fit the charges, you usually have to have a certain number of things that qualify to fit that charge, and that would follow the judge's instructions, which were given yesterday morning.
Yesterday, yeah.
And so they had a lot of things to go through, and 10 hours, it sounds like a short period of time. Not
Yeah.
really.
Yeah, and you know that they didn't ask
Given
any
when?
questions
Yesterday
tells
morning?
me that they're pretty solidified in their opinions in that room. Now, I mentioned this last time we spoke. It's up to who the
Hello?
foreman is. Who's the person that
Right.
those 12 people pick
Hey, what's going on,
to
bro?
be their foreperson? And by the way, they're evenly split. There are 6 whites and 6 people of color, 7 women. 5
Yeah,
men.
but I took a
And
break because I
so
wanted to go get something to
they
eat.
picked someone who's pretty
But the
fortunate.
verdict is in.
Okay.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have y'all call back
And
in
then
once the verdict is
let's go
released,
through it.
and we're gonna talk about it.
That there weren't any questions is a little baffling to me.
All right.
I've covered so many jury trials, and there's almost always some questions. They send out a little note to the judge, and the bailiff reads it, and the judge reads it, and then he sends back an answer, announces it in court. It's a whole big deal. None of that this time.
And just to clarify for everyone, once again, in case you're just joining us, a verdict has been reached in the Derek Chauvin trial. That will be read between 3:30 and 4 p.m. Central Time today. So Eastern Time, it will be read between 4:30 and 5 p.m. So we are waiting for that when that happens, about an hour from now here on the East Coast. In terms of the questions, I did see yesterday, and Diane, maybe you may have been the one that brought this up, or you would know something about it. The only notes that the jurors had were the notes that they took themselves, that there was nothing provided to them in terms of what was said in the trial.
Right, no transcript was given to them. They have to rely on their little notebooks that they keep. The court gives them a notebook and pens and pencils, whatever they want. And you might have heard the defense attorney and the prosecution both saying to them, remember when so-and-so testified? Don't rely on what I'm saying. Look back at your notes about what that person testified to. And so you have to hope when you seat a jury that they're attentive and that they do take notes.
Yeah.
Yesterday, the pool report came in from the 2 reporters that were allowed in the courtroom that the jury was really attentive. They were taking lots of notes during the prosecution's closing argument and during the defense closing argument. So I think they're taking it seriously.
Yeah, it is quick, and especially given the what's the definition of intentional?
Right.
All kinds of things that were related to these charges. You might expect a question, nothing. So we're going to take a break here, Diane. There's plenty to talk about. Again, we're awaiting the reading of the verdict in the Derek Chauvin case, expected roughly an hour from now. The case, the interesting aspect also, how does this come down and what's the reaction of the public to it? So we'll have more on American Agenda after the break.
You are on the go and need news now. No paywalls, no cable subscriptions. Just download the Newsmax app from your smartphone store. It's free. And watch Newsmax TV anytime, anywhere.
Do you have a life insurance policy you no longer need? Now you can sell your policy, even a term policy, for an immediate cash payment.
We thought we had planned carefully for our retirement.
But we quickly realized we needed a way to supplement our income.
If you have $100,000 or more of life insurance, you may qualify to sell your policy. Don't cancel or let your policy lapse without finding out what it's worth. Visit CoventryDirect.com to find out if your policy qualifies, or call 1-800-517-0900. Coventry Direct, redefining.
What up, everybody? What up, everybody? Yeah. And we got it going on. So as we await as we await the verdict, we are approximately 32 minutes away. Hey, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open them call lines up. Hold on, because I got one that called in. Hold on. That's what we do. And we're gonna open the call lines up.
Hello.
Hey, Black Panther.
Black Power, what's happening?
What's going on? Question. And we got like 15 minutes to talk. So I gotta squeeze you in. So I said, since you was the one that called, I'm gonna squeeze you in first. Give us your outpour of how would you feel if they let this man off, and give us your opinion of how would you feel if they hammer him. You got the floor.
If they let him off, it'll be like something you kind of expect already, because they're known for, it's very seldomly they'll convict their own like that. Very seldomly, you know. Some situations they will convict them, but most they let them get off or get them a slap on the wrist. You know what I mean? In a lot of cases, they kind of expect, white people know that we'll probably burn the city down. They know that we'll be outraged. They know that we'll be upset. You know, they calculated this already. I mean, so now they already boarding up the buildings. They're getting ready for it just in case, because they already know pretty much what's going to happen. But it's like we have to change this narrative, though. We have to change this narrative. We got to sit outside of his family's houses, let them know whenever they kill somebody black like this or African descent, we got to let them know we'll sit outside of your house, outside of your neighbors' houses. You know what I mean? Catch y'all going to the supermarket, Walmart, or wherever. You know what I'm saying? The apple and eye. You know what I mean? But burning the city down, that's cool, but we have to look for another solution, though. And I'm cool with people, us, sitting outside their house, you know what I mean, or their family houses, letting them know, you know, we'll take your life too in the hand. That's what it's going to come down to. One day it's going to have to blood for apple and eye, blood for blood, you know. So that's the solution I'm with, you know what I'm saying? So I'm ready for an organization to get together and say, okay, let's all unite and dox them like they do on YouTube, you know what I mean, and go seek out their family members, and you know what I mean, so let them know, y'all kill one of us, we come and look for y'all, boy. At the same time, we have to clean up our own community, though. We have to do is clean up our own community. We shooting and killing each other, doing this and that, but the difference is with that, it's like if we kill each other out here, then 9 times out of 10, somebody's going to come back and find out what happened, and they're going to get their own justice on the street, some type of shape, form, or fashion. But with them, it was like when they kill one of us, they get off scot-free, or they get a slap on the wrist. So that's the whole thing I'm not cool with, you know.
Okay, so question. But I heard you say time to reorganize in the movement.
Oh, yeah, got to unite. Yeah, we got to have unity.
So check it. Man, you need to talk offline, because if it's a reincarnation of Fred Hampton that they want, let's do it.
Yeah, not just Fred Hampton, but Nat Turner.
Right.
Back to the forefront.
Mm-hmm.
Nat Turner formed his own organization, his own people, and they went out and they got tired of slavery, and they got tired of the living conditions they was in, and they killed women and even babies. So that's what's going to take, the 2021 version of Nat Turner back reincarnated again, you know.
And we can't have no sympathy.
No, you can't.
No sympathy.
We got to change the narrative. It's not cool to just kill. It's not cool to just keep on killing.
Hey, Maria.
Our brothers and sisters out here, you know. Sandra Bland, you know, in the jailhouse. We get killed out in jail. So we got to change the narrative all over, you know. We got to do our own. We got to get our own organization, our own army out here, you know. Men that's not scared. You can run up and drive by and shoot your brother 12 times and shoot a little girl in Chicago 6 times, 7-year-old girl, but you can't face this white man that's been known for killing us. Come on now, this ain't gangster. This is not gangster at all. It's cowardly, really. You know what I mean? But when a white man pull up and throw your gun up and you hold your hands behind your head, come on now, that shit ain't cool. This shit ain't cool at all, you know.
Definitely.
You know, but that's what it's gonna take. It's gonna take some men, strong men, women, and I ain't gonna say children, but men and women to get out here and fight. Like I always told the Panther Party, I said, if these brothers out here fighting cancer, life-threatening diseases, shit. Before you check out this motherfucker, take some lives in your own hand. But you know what I mean? It's like if you know you ain't got that long to live, you go out here and do what most don't want to do. You know, because you ain't got long to live. Anyway, you're not expecting no miracle to happen. Shit. Go ahead and stake out the damn police station and do what you got to do. If you know that this police officer is known for terrorizing people in the black community, you know, do your homework on them and take some justice before you check out. You know.
Yeah, I didn't know the police department were the original slave catchers, man.
Oh yeah. That's what I called in and tell you on the show the other day. Yeah, they got paid for running. They got paid for catching runaway slaves. You know, we would consider somebody's property.
Right.
We still consider their property because we got their last names. You know, Vanderbilt and Johnson. And these are not our names in Africa. We didn't have no names like this. You know, Vanderbilt. We ain't no goddamn van or no truck. We doing names like this. You ain't gonna see no Hawaiian or no Asian. We don't last name like Johnson and Riviera and all these little crazy names. This is not of us. You know, that's not part of who we are. You know, but we got a lost identity of who we originated was, or that's been erased and stolen from us.
Okay, so let me ask you this, and because my sister Sky Zone made a good synopsis of this all. And Sky, if you still here after Black Panther get off, I want you to call in. What happens if we do get a guilty verdict? Where do we go from here?
You talking to me on Sky Zone?
You.
Well, I know I'm pretty sure they're gonna burn the city down and tear the city up like they normally do. And,
if we get a guilty verdict.
Oh, a guilty verdict. Oh. Then it's not going to be much time. It's probably going to be a slap on the wrist, like I said, 10, 12, 15 years. Something he could do standing up on his head, you know what I mean? And I don't think that's just going to be just so they can keep the peace overall. And they're going to think about the businesses in the area, and Minneapolis and other parts of the United States of America. I call it United States of America. That's exactly what they is. United Snakes of America. But that's all they're going to do. Is probably going to be a slap on the wrist. And so they could just keep peace somewhat. And that's going to probably be it, you know. But if they give them 100 years, 200 years, shit like that, then I'll be surprised. I would be damn surprised, you know. Because that sends a message to the other police. If they give them like 100 or 200 years or shit like that, then that would let them know it's not cool to keep on killing these people. But they really don't care. They never cared about us. So I would be very shocked and surprised if they gave this man what he rightfully deserved. And I don't see that, though. You know what? We don't see though.
But the question is, if we get a guilty verdict, where do we go from here?
It all depends on the guilty verdict we get. It depends on if they give them a slap on the wrist, then we gotta do what we know to do. You know what I mean? But if they do give us justice, which they 9 times out of 10 they won't, then shit, you know what we gotta do too. We know what it's time to do. We just gotta start rethinking our strategies. We gotta start staking out their families, staking out his family houses. You know what I mean? So his neighbors get tired of us disrupting their neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? And force them to relocate somewhere else and go to that location. You know what I mean? Don't give them no peace. You know what I'm saying?
Angie said his max is 40 years. How?
Oh, that's what they said, 40 years?
How? Look, let me get one of the women on here. Angie, call in.
Okay, then. I'm
going to call you right back, bro.
Okay.
All right.
Peace.
All right. Thank you, Black Panther Party, for calling in. Angie or Sky, one of y'all ladies, G-Kid, one of y'all ladies call in. PG, what up? Call in. Tyree, what's up? Somebody call in. The best is yet to come. Hey, Troy. Dream team. But he got second and third degree. It's 4 charges he got. They gave a cop 6 years for killing a 17-year-old, and he was shot 16 times. Damn. Can't call him. Okay, it's cool. Angie, call in. Third degree, 25 years. Okay. You live on the Dana J Show. I can help you.
Hey, this is Angie. What's going on?
Angie, what's going on?
Nothing, man. Nothing. I see you working on that chicken.
Oh yeah. What is these charges we talking about?
For the second degree, his maximum is 40 years.
Okay.
For third degree, his maximum is 25 years. For, I think, some manslaughter, whatever, his maximum is 10 years plus a $20,000 fine. And remind you, that's the maximum.
Okay, so with all 4 charges, right? He can get what combined?
Well, you know what? I didn't really follow this like that, but so he has several different charges that they're gonna indict on or what have you. Mm-hmm. So first of all, we have to find out what they indict on, and then or what they accuse him of, adjudicate him guilty on, and then they're gonna tell you exactly what they find. Now, I don't know, juries are different. Sometimes they find you guilty, and then at a later date, you come back and find the sentence. And sometimes they do it right then. So it all depends on the jury.
Okay.
So we might not know the time frame that we might do. They might do it in one sitting or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So.
But they still gotta prosecute the other 3, right?
No, I didn't even. You know what? I thought somebody was let go. I thought they dismissed the charges off to other people.
Mm-mm.
See, that's how much I've been following it.
Mm-mm.
But I just knew. You know what I'm saying? It's clear. What? From the there wasn't a real need to look at the truckers. Okay, if it hadn't been for his interaction with this goddamn fool, no matter if he was on crack, they had a fake $20 bill, this, that, and the third, he wouldn't have lost his life that day. It was by the hands of that person. It's called causation. That means that officer was the cause, and his actions was the effect. It's called causation, also known as but for. So, but for him running into his ass on that day, he would have still been living. I don't care. Because he had to render that man unconscious, which led to his death.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? People take drugs and do crack and whatever every day, and they still live. But for his encounter with this idiot, this is what happened. So I'm thinking that is clear and present. But it's not the same as the Mike Brown case. That was a little different. It's not the same as.
What's the difference between them two?
Well, with the Mike Brown case, it was just let me say this up front, okay? My volunteer hours is in rehabilitation and all of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
My actual belief, my personal belief is that death could have been avoided, as many deaths, right? That's
Right.
done by cops. That's my position. I'll never change that. However, when you legally processing someone, they're showing where they had that video and what they was trying to say, like he was fighting the cop and he was like then they said when he was running away, and they said he kind of had turned around and advanced towards the cop or whatever. That's the gray area, right? So that I think that's kind of changed things, because all that footage and things of that nature kind of, I think, played into the jury's decision. However, or whatever decision. However, this was clear and cut murder.
Well,
clear cut.
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. With the Mike Brown thing, I disagree.
Okay.
Not that it's a agreeable thing. This is what I think, honestly. I think you have these white cops in these colored neighborhoods and they're scared. So why not take us and put us in our own neighborhoods and put them in their own neighborhoods, and you won't have so much.
Yeah, now you're talking procedure. Which is, something they discuss. And like I said, as far as, this something that they always discuss. They always, have these boards, these meetings, these groups, and you go in, you put in, proposals, suggestions, whatever. And to be honest, nothing ever happens with them. I mean, just to be honest, they always throw it back on the budget. They don't have enough money to do this. They don't have enough money to do that. Yet, my thing is, when you're hiring new cops and this, that, and the other, what have you, then why not assign them to those neighborhoods? You know what I'm saying? Why not, like my fiance, when he went down to Miami, when he was on that task force after this George Floyd thing or whatever, they sat down, and, because it was right after that happened. They were all, just that and third, whatever. But nothing too significant has come from that. All these task force and all this. Like, okay, well, when we're going to move the needle, when we're going to do something different. So, yeah, but, you're talking about procedure, which, I think procedure did always play a part in the trials, but to me, the procedures always favor the cop.
But I think, honestly, I think the way academy should be reformed, and
you're right.
And a part of the reformation, I think that if you're gonna be an academy, because we spend 18 weeks in academy, and correctional officers spend 16, cops spend 18, special forces and special tactics units spend 24. I think if you're a regular cop, instead of doing 18 months in academy, I think it should be 8 weeks in academy, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, evasive training and tactical training and stuff, and 8 weeks in your assigned district. So that way you can get to know your district and you can get to know the people, and it won't be no bullshit.
And regular training.
Right.
Regular training. Because and another thing, just like these laws and things of this nature, they evolve because they're supposed to reflect the makeup of the country and what's going on or whatever. The police force has to do the same thing. Everything needs to move forward.
Hey, Cardi. No, not yet, Cardi.
It needs to reflect what's going on now.
Right.
And now you can't govern with 25-year-old laws. It just don't work.
Well, you can't govern with a 300-year-old system.
Right. So it's you know, this is crazy.
Mental health comes in, and Maria, mental health comes in. That's week 4 actually, because you go to mental health training, and for 2 weeks. I'm in Phoenix Rising. Mental health is in week 4. So from week 4 to week 6, and you go through mental health. Week 7 to week 9 is prayer. From week 10 and to week 12, it all depends on your instructor, and you have report writing. I hate that shit. Week 13 to week 14, you pretty much hands-on training, and you get your mace, you get tased, and you learn. If matter of fact, if you're a CO and you learn how to battle ram in, yeah, just like that. Week 16, you get your graduation. But
This is weird.
But I think it should be stretched out to more time. And because see, what people don't know is you can get all the training inside of a classroom that you want. And you can get all the training as far as like down by the schools, because that's where you train outdoor at, down by the school district. It ain't nothing like being out there amongst them people. It ain't nothing like that. You can't get simulated for that. And I ain't gonna lie to you. That's one of the most scariest things. Your first day on the street. Oh my God. Hold on. Hot Rod.
What's up? What's up? You live or what?
Of course I'm live.
Huh?
Of course I'm live. I'm covering the George Floyd joint.
Okay. Tell everybody the dream.
They can hear you. They can hear you.
What's up, everybody? I miss y'all. Been working my butt off. I will be checking in on everybody, man. Just want to let you know, really appreciate y'all. Stay stern, stay strong, keep your eyes open, because everything is starting to reveal itself. Keep that in mind, everybody. Everything is starting to reveal itself. So I just wanted to hit y'all up and say I love y'all, man. Dana, keep up the great work, brother. Thank you for checking in on me. That meant
All right, you don't work.
But that's Angie Walker on the other line. Angie Walker said, "You know what?"
Wait, that's my queen, Angie Walker.
Yep.
What's up, Angie? How you doing?
Fine, but Hot Rod, you know darn well you don't work. You just sit in that damn truck.
Man, you know what though? That's what I love about Angie, because Angie peep game.
Yes, you know I peep game. Yeah. Well, I don't like you that. That's that old sexy crackhead term. I don't
As long as I'm there, they gotta pay me while I'm there.
Hey, we still don't know what you do. We still don't know what you do. You just sit there, Tommy. That's in the truck, Tommy. We still don't know what the hell.
But one thing for sure.
Like, what the hell he do?
You know my black ass work. There's one thing for sure. You know I work.
Right. I know you do something. You do something, Tommy. What it is. That's why we don't know what the hell going on.
I love y'all, man. Just keep up the great work. I firmly believe that every human being on this planet deserves a fair trial. I think it's messed up. I don't want to curse on your panel, but I think it's effed up.
Go, man, curse. Go ahead, curse. Speak your mind.
Fucked up. I think it's fucked up on how these people who say they are for R. Kelly is deliberately they have crushed this man so far. They're not doing it. They have done it and continuing on. doing it. It's sad. I've been saying, I don't want to say that man's name, but the one that you don't like the most, but that man right there from day one,
say his name. Say his name.
Huh?
Say his name.
Don Russell. Don Russell.
Okay.
Don Russell. When that man sat back and got off that bus, when Rob got off that bus with that blue coat on in January, we was in a restaurant. All of us was in a restaurant, and we hit the floor laughing on what Don said. Don admitted that he was guilty.
Oh, you was in that restaurant?
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
bro, when you get settled tonight, I need you to come. I want to interview you tonight, bro.
Okay.
Can you please give me that much, man? Can I please?
Okay.
Can I please
Man, we were
interview
in a
you, bro?
restaurant and all our mouths dropped when he said,
Man, can I please interview? Listen, I'm gonna play that tonight. I'm gonna play it tonight, and then and that's gonna lead me into your interview.
Yeah, because they turned around with we said, damn, the man ain't even made it in the building yet.
No, wait.
I want y'all to...
Wait, let's just save that for the night, man.
Okay, but listen here. But I just want to open up everybody's eyes to all the seats, the lies, and everything else. That was the first and last time you seen Don Russell. When you seen Don Russell, that's when R. Kelly got off that bus. Right after that, you seen Stephen Greenberg and Daryl Johnson. The only time you seen Don Russell was after the feds picked Rob up, then Don Russell reappeared. Because R. Kelly didn't want him around him at all. At all. At all. So he felt as though that now that he's locked up in jail, now he can sit back and come out and start going to different platforms, because he wasn't doing it while Rob was out on bond.
Man, look, we gonna save this for the night, bro.
Okay, I just want y'all to peep game. All right, so I love you, brother.
Love you back.
Keep up the great work, Dream Team. Y'all doing y'all thing. Y'all doing y'all thing.
Appreciate you, Hot Rod.
Nothing but respect for all of y'all.
Appreciate you, man.
Angie Walker, I love you. I'll talk to you guys later, okay?
Shout out to Oko too.
Shout out to Oko. I'm sorry, I'm at work.
All right.
Shout out to Oko. All right. Bye.
Angie Walker.
Yes, sir.
All right. I don't know what the hell going on, but they done. Oh shit! If you look at the screen, they done bust the windows out the stores already.
They already busted the windows out.
Look on the screen.
I see. God damn, they ain't even gave it time. These people are.
They ain't playing.
They ain't playing that shit. They letting you know right now, bitch. If you said that verdict is not guilty, you better take your ass back in there and figure something else out. They send a message right now. But this can be your ass tonight. When you leave, you think you gonna slide up out that goddamn slide up on that goddamn at that goddamn courthouse.
Cardi said hello, Angie.
I'm bricking your ass, huh?
Cardi said hello.
Hey, Cardi, y'all. She was chilling with her kids' mama, y'all.
What the fuck? Yo, I would love to have Angie and Cardi on the panel together. I think I shit on myself.
Yeah, they got them. Cardi is crazy, honey. Cardi is crazy.
Cardi don't play no games. Cardi get the twerking. It's over.
Oh, the girl white. Like, are you white?
No, Cardi ain't white. She just trapped inside of a white body.
I thought that was a fake picture.
Cardi just trapped inside a white body.
Yeah. I know a white girl, when I see one here, she lighter than me. She white. Hell, you lighter than me, she's white. Hell.
Pretty P said the military is here. Pretty Peace, are you in Minnesota? Are you in Minnesota? How many people I have online? Oh, 83. Okay.
Yeah, Sean 83. Yes, honey, this is crazy. They breaking out. I can't believe they breaking
Look, Angie. Sky Zone, can you call in? Oh, Sky Zone driving. And she said, Angie, don't make me crash.
You know I'm telling the truth. The shit on fire already. They not playing with your ass today. They not playing. They not playing today. You come out there with that bullshit, jury. You better get your ass on. You better get in witness protection your goddamn self. You just better walk on.
Hey, Monica.
Damn. Yes, there's gonna be some shit today.
Man, I think today, if the jury come back wrong, I think today is going to be the day that martial law is called in the United States.
Man, it's gonna be so goddamn crazy. I'm trying to tell you. I know them damn the sisters and down that goddamn not R. Kelly sisters or whatever. The sisters and down that goddamn yellow bus, the aunties and everybody, they making their way up there because they want to hear this bullshit. Because I'm trying to tell you, gonna be some bitches on bullhorn, bad knees and shit, and they gonna tear up Minnesota. Poor Prince now play his place gonna be safe because you know we love Prince, but other than that, they're gonna tear that goddamn Minnesota up. Watch. Now come out there with that bullshit. Come out there with 10 years. I'm telling you right now, and that's 10 years max. And you always got to think about it. They always try to give policemen, except for that man that was raping all them damn people who got, I don't know how many, was messing with all them black women, and I don't know how many years he got. He got 30 years on one charge.
But you know what killed me? Hold on. I'm about to pull it up right now. Hold on.
Yeah, but like I was saying, they always trying to give police the, credit for being on the force and all that shit. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Bring your okay. Watch. They already setting your shit on fire now.
I said they shit on fire now.
Nah. Now come on out there with that bullshit. The bailiff better tell them. If you coming out this door with not guilty, you better turn your ass back around and figure something out. Cause you better come out with mistrial. Cause if not, your shit is okay. You're gonna be hitting the head with all kind of pocketbooks. Cause them old ladies like to hit the head with a pocketbook. Your ass be somewhere down on that damn ground.
All right, so I got a question, Angie. Then I'm gonna go here. No, I'm gonna tell y'all what I'm gonna talk about after. Hold on. But I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna talk about after we get the verdict. I'm gonna talk about the Minnesota cop that was black that shot and killed the white lady when she jumped out on him, and they found him guilty.
Whoa! What?
Oh! Matter of fact, just so y'all think I'm not capping, I'm gonna show you.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
And
so crazy.
And the person that vouched for him to go to jail is the person that everybody voted for. So we're gonna get deep into it today. I done had my lemon pepper wings. I done had my hot lemon pepper wings. I done had some, fries, but that's all I can eat for the rest of the week as far as fried food. I'm ready to get into it. And because this got to stop, but I'm ready to get into it. And it's crazy because what I mean by people are ignorant, I'm not saying nothing about you. I'm just saying ignorant because ignorance means you do not know. Oh shit. Here they come.
Who coming now?
Some of the jurors coming in. Uh-oh, here they come.
Okay, come on with that bullshit. I'm gonna turn hold on a minute. Oh, you got it.
Uh-oh, there go Jesse. Get him, Jesse, you fucking crook.
Everybody's out there.
There go Jesse looking like the humpback of Notre Dame.
Come with that bullshit, Jerry. No, you know what? when the jury comes out, sometimes they usually give you an indication of what they decided. And if you know how to read a jury,
Oh yeah.
or whatever. But there's some of them.
Thank you, New Black Panther.
Like, bitch, bitch, what you did? Am I winning, bitch? That's what I want to know. Bitch, am I winning? Hell, I'm coming with all that bullshit.
Man, it's gonna be live, man. It's gonna be live.
I'm serious. I'm telling y'all right now, white people, if this fucking goddamn, this ain't no threat. White people, if that goddamn shit is some bullshit, y'all better stay in the house. So I'm telling you, they gonna tell. Don't be afraid. I really can't say that because I got white people in my family. But listen, I'm telling you, the rest of y'all better stay in the house. There's gonna be some shit today. If them jurors get this shit wrong, I'm telling you right now, the shit I read on fire. I don't know where these black people getting these explosives from. They don't use to sell us no bomb making material and shit that could be flammable. So I don't know what's going on. If we go to the gas station, get back 2 or 3 more cans of gas, they looking at us crazy, asking what we want that gas for. So I'm just trying to tell you, I don't know what the fuck is going on. I don't know, but you better be careful. It's on fire already.
Man, like I say, I'm loaded. I got my guns ready. Hold on. Wait a minute. How ironic that this verdict is close to the 29th anniversary of LA riots from the Rodney King verdict back in April 29th, 1982. Wow.
Ooh.
I never looked at it like that, J-Rock. Thank you for dropping bombs, bro.
Oh, yeah, J-Rock. You know what? They might tear this shit up like they did when when that happened.
Unique, hey.
In the house.
Man, look, I put like this. They can't have the National Guards on every state. I think if it come back not guilty, every state need to tear that fucking state up.
It's gonna be tore up. It's gonna be tore up.
And wait, Angie, you don't see what Joe Biden is trying to do?
What Joe Biden trying to do?
You know he trying to make Washington, D.C. the 51st state.
Oh, wow.
See, they ain't talking about it. And they talking about that should come out as soon as Thursday.
Yeah, I see that. I see a tape running down at the end, at the bottom of your broadcast. Them people don't want to hear nothing about no goddamn vaccine. I'm telling you, fuck some vaccine if that goddamn that shit come back wrong. That vaccine finna get fucked up. Because they finna go find that vaccine and throw it all in the damn river. Them black people gonna hunt that. Let me tell you what gonna hunt.
Look. Nevada death row inmate wants firing squad option. I told y'all, I'm telling you what's going on. A lot of people don't know, but in order to do that, and you got to go to Gitmo. Man, look, they ain't playing with these people. He would rather die by pain.
Is this CNN you watching or just something else?
Nope. See, I keep telling y'all, I'm watching the real news.
The news is this, but this ain't no goddamn CNN. What the fuck?
See, and see what I'm watching. It has everything, Angie. This is Newsmax.
Oh shit! I'm trying to find squad. What the fuck?
Look, just matter of fact, just keep looking at the bottom.
Yeah, I'm looking at that damn ticker keep going back.
CNN will never put that out there.
I'm telling y'all right now, y'all people at them pharmacies, y'all better hide that goddamn vaccine, because I'm telling you, this shit come out wrong. They come for that vaccine. It's gonna be some bullshit today. They're gonna get all this vaccine and keep it. And the needles and shit, and we black folk, we gonna use diabetic needles and shit, and we gonna disperse that goddamn
Yes.
who we want to give it to. God damn it.
Okay, cool. Look, Angie, let me get everybody ready. I want to hear what they saying. So hey,
Okay.
all right,
All right. Back in the jet.
all right. I want to listen.
Our judicial system to see how this is being taken, but you see even our highest level politicians weighing in on a case. You've had the president weighing in on this thing, saying that he says there's only one way this should go.
Yeah, Rob,
Do we want to listen?
yeah, let's pause for a moment. This is the family of George Floyd. We're being told.
Right? My student. That is for Justin Keegan. That's for Jamar Clark. That's for all of our lost ones. That's all I can say right now. God is great. I can always say that. I see, but I can't really tell.
Sure.
Right, my student.
Well, let's listen
So,
in again. Let's see.
yeah.
All right.
That would be probably George Floyd's. I think wasn't there the George Floyd connection to Dante Wright? I think his girlfriend maybe taught Dante Wright or something similar to that. There's a connection between these two. I remember that.
Yeah, let's bring in Katie Cherkasky to talk about what preparations go on now, because being a criminal defense attorney,
Wow.
as you've been, I was curious. You must be very nervous at this point if it's your client, but I want to focus on what's being done behind the scenes to try to ensure the safety of the community.
Sure. Well, of course, the safety of the community is a bigger question, but in terms of the courtroom itself, typically the defendant is going to be isolated somewhere with his defense team and potentially his family or other supporters. I'm not sure what the logistics are there with COVID and how they're allowing him to have his separate space there, but that's how it's typically set up. All of the attorneys kind of stay in their separate areas with their sides of the aisle, so to speak, and wait for this verdict. And then in terms of conversations with the defendant, the defense attorney, there's a lot of discussions about the logistics. If there's a conviction, here's what's going to happen next. Here's, we'll have a break of some sort, just the kind of basics of that sort. And then really kind of big picture.
Not yet, Unique.
They'll be presenting during that sentencing phase, if that's what's
Not yet.
So just kind of probably the emotional prep. And in this case, there's so much more to consider than in a typical criminal case. But really, it's all the same for folks that are waiting for the answer on their fate.
Rob, one of the things I wonder, Heather, does it matter what the case, how this comes down, if people are not happy in the streets right now anyway?
Right. Can we pause again, since it does appear they're talking now? Let's listen in.
We will not tolerate this system killing us, killing our people. No, this is the last straw. George Floyd was the straw that broke the camel's back. Enough is enough. So if it's not a guilty verdict, then they cause it, whatever happens, they cause it on themselves.
Do you trust the justice system?
No, I do not trust the justice system. I will never trust the justice system, because the justice system murdered the father of my son, and there's been no accountability. And I'm hoping and praying for once in history. So once in history, they do the right thing. But I do not trust the justice system, because the justice system is rooted in white supremacy and white privilege. Pardon me?
Do you trust the justice system?
No, I can't say that I've ever trusted it. But today, I do believe that it is going to serve us right. It's going to serve the people today, and we're going to try to make some changes.
Rob, one of the things I'm wondering is if it is a guilty verdict, does that change the sentiment? Or does the verdict itself have an effect?
I think their comments answered your question, Bob. It doesn't seem like the verdict is going to matter one way or the other.
But I wish a reporter would ask that.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you listen, and it's, you hear their anger and frustration. I mean, people have talked a lot about reimagining our policing, reimagining our justice system. I think a lot of people would argue that a lot of what needs to be reimagined is the culture of violence in our inner cities and among some of the communities in this country that leads to so much violent crime happening in a country like this, to where your police have got to be so on edge to begin with. I think there's a fair statement to be made there that a lot of this is overblown. They expect police to be perfect all the time when they're dealing with life or death situations. I'm not sure that's fair.
Can we bring back in Katie Cherkasky as well? Katie, we do have some breaking news here that is also coming in that in anticipation of this announcement that, as we've been saying, is supposed to come between 4:30 and 5 p.m. That will be followed by Minnesota's governor. He will make a statement and have a reaction to the verdict about 30 minutes after it is announced. We do know that Minnesota's governor has already declared a state of emergency, due in part, Katie, to what we're hearing family members of George Floyd say right now, that it's not really a matter of what the verdict is, it's an overwhelming distrust in the system in general.
Well, I can certainly see that that is the big disconnect here between the two camps of folks that are waiting for an answer. So on the one hand, you hope that people can put their trust in the judicial system that we have, the constitutional system we have, to allow these jurors.
Yes, the verdict is in, and it will be read very shortly.
Not the bigger pressures from outside. But on the other hand, you have a valid question about, do we have a system of policing set up that is always going to result in what people will deem to be unfair outcomes or dangerous outcomes? And is that what?
No problem, Unique. I try.
To make change from within the system, but really to overhaul it in totality, whether that's defunding the police altogether or anything of that sort. So I think you really have to understand where people are coming from to understand what's going to appease them. And there may not be a very satisfying answer for everybody in this scenario, unfortunately.
Yeah, and speaking right now, Courtney Roth, the girlfriend of the late George Floyd, and Diane, I'm kind of...
Hey, Classy J. Hey, True Strong Warrior.
Before it gets dark, I guess between the announcement of the verdict and when it gets dark is kind of...
No problem, love yourself.
That's going to determine what happens tonight, I'm guessing, the reaction.
Well, and even in hours past that, because it's under cover of darkness that so much looting and arson takes place. I want to jump off something that Rob said earlier. People are talking about the need for police reform. And yes, training needs to change. We need to get up with the times. We need more neighborhood policing, in my opinion. But I'm going to say something really controversial here. Standing there behind the chain link fence, talking to the sheriff, was the Reverend Jesse Jackson. Where is Jesse Jackson been to address the problem and other Black leaders, to address the problem in this country that has split us between the victim philosophy and the others that they see as racists? There's got to be a peacemaker that comes forward sometime in my lifetime, I hope, that says to the Black community, the people of color, listen, don't think of yourselves as victims. Don't distrust the Justice Department. Don't distrust the courts and the police. Make them work for you. Your taxes pay for them. Get up and stop thinking of yourself as a victim, and let's become part of the solution. I don't hear anybody. I'm thirsting for a Martin Luther King Jr.
Yeah.
I'm thirsting for a Black or other person of color, a leader, to say, this is America. Let's tear down those chain link fences. Let's stop screaming about police brutality, and let's start teaching our young people that when a police officer gives you a command, you respond to that command. You don't fight back, you don't flee, and you don't draw a weapon, because you will be met with force. And if we could just get that mindset into the minority community, and then get the police to reform themselves and treat people with equal respect, think of what America could be.
And perhaps one of those leaders could be the President of the United States. But as we all have been discussing, we have the President of the United States coming forward and saying, referencing the right verdict coming down prior to all this. And I mentioned that because we do have some breaking news.
Thank you so much, feeling fine.
President Biden was supposed to talk about infrastructure this afternoon, but the White House is now advising that those remarks have been rescheduled given this verdict in Derek Chauvin's trial. And the press secretary says now that President Biden will speak sometime after the verdict is announced. So he'll have comments about this as well. hopefully his comments can smooth things over regardless one way or the other.
Yeah, calm things down. I think Diane makes an excellent point. When I saw Jesse Jackson there, it did strike me. I remember him being with Martin Luther King, even when he was shot in Memphis. And Martin Luther King believed in peaceful protest, but he believed—
No, it's not Fox News, it's Newsmax.
That's what you do. You lead to arrest. Unfortunately, when we see these protests, so many of them—
not Fox, definitely not CNN. It's Newsmax.
And violence, which was not what Martin Luther King was preaching. And so we haven't seen, when we see somebody like Maxine Waters come out and talk about you need to have more force, you need to be more responsive. She didn't say it in exact words, but we all kind of got the message, what she was saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, again, there's a great point to be made. Where these voices that have so much sway in this community, where are they to tell young people, stay out of trouble? Go out there, get a high school degree, get a college degree, get a job, start a family, live by a certain system in this country that we know works. Don't get into a gang when you're 14 years old. Don't commit violent crimes. And when you come into contact with police, don't resist arrest. Where are those voices? Everybody is sitting around waiting and waiting until another cop has to kill somebody in the line of duty while ignoring countless deaths in all of these inner cities. I read an article yesterday that talked about when you had Bloomberg and Giuliani come into power in New York. They talked about it.
Hey, Nikki, I like it because it gives a different view.
By stronger policing in this city. And it just goes to show you how many victims there are of crime and violence in all the inner cities in this country, that these groups, that these voices, BLM, Antifa—
That's not a reporter.
They ignore constantly. They ignore and ignore and ignore. And then they just wait and wait until there's something they can use to their political advantage, like a death by a cop in a situation like this. Where are the voices to say, let's fix these communities, let's root out the real problem here, instead of waiting until something happens with the police officer?
Yeah, let's bring everybody up to speed, because it is the half past the top of the hour. This is the time that we're told that the judge would be returning to the courtroom. The jury would be coming in because they have reached a verdict in the Derek Chauvin case. Derek Chauvin, of course, was charged with 3 different charges: second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter. The greatest of those would be the second-degree murder, where he's facing 40 years. And that announcement is supposed to be made between 4:30 and 5 p.m. Eastern. So we continue to monitor that.
Let's listen to Logan Raddick. Let's listen in right now.
A man with a big heart, like everyone is saying in the courtroom. Okay, then. And sorry, Tyron coming in. I'm not used to it.
Finish your story. Finish your thought. That's important. What would you like?
Floyd was nothing but fun. He was funny and silly and prayerful and a man of God, and he was out this world. And I like to tell people a lot, like, Floyd was a big man, and he was too big for this earth. And I see it now. I see that he's over all of us right now. And
It's all right. Ms. Ross, will the guilt be heard on all 3 counts for committing solitude?
I can't say. I just can't say.
What would George think about all of this? What he created?
Okay. Well, I think that an interesting response there. I think that's Logan talking to her.
Yeah.
That's George Floyd's girlfriend. And he asked, would a guilty verdict on all 3 counts satisfy you? And her answer, if I heard it correctly, was, I can't say. And I think that, Heather, is what concerns a lot of folks.
Right. And earlier, the answer when that was asked was no, that we need to overhaul the entire police system, and that they will not be satisfied until that happens. An interesting side note, which Rob Schmidt had brought up earlier, that not only was she George Floyd's girlfriend, she was also a teacher of Dante Wright. In our other shot that we had up there for a moment, I think it was probably the back of the courthouse, you could see some National Guard troops or some police officers in what appeared to be already in riot gear. If we could zoom in again, behind the fence there in that area, you can see that they are preparing for what may or may not happen on the streets once this verdict is read. And that, of course, will be the primary concern moving forward and as night falls on the city of Minneapolis. Rob?
Yeah, I really don't know what to expect tonight. It depends on the verdict. If they get all three as a guilty, it might appease to some extent. Again, you're not going to get a sentence today, so you're not going to get an indication how long Chauvin would be going to jail if he is going to jail. But I mean, you could imagine that with how many people have flown in for this. I mean, you've had members of Antifa, BLM, they're coming in from all over. This is a big moment for them. They want to push a lot of power out of this moment. Of course, that's what they're about. I have to think there's going to be some kind of response no matter what. I can't imagine everybody just saying, no, okay, we're happy, we're going to go home now.
Yeah, Steve Sanders, what do you think Sanchez, what do you think happens here? Because I keep saying this, but there's a long time between now and the time it's dark in Minneapolis and many cities throughout the country.
Yeah, well, if we go all the way back to Rodney King again, 1992, it wasn't dark and chaos already started. And of course, as it got dark, it was worse. I want to go back to what the girlfriend had said a moment ago regarding George Floyd. I wonder if the pregnant woman that he pointed a gun to,
there you go,
held at gunpoint, thinks that he's an angel. I'll be straight with you. Look, I'll be controversial and tell you, I don't wish death on anybody. But let's stop pretending that this guy was walking around with a halo on his head, okay? I think we got to have that conversation. Let's be intellectually honest. Yeah. So no matter what happens, no matter what verdict comes down, which I personally believe it's going to be manslaughter, but if that happens, good luck in America. I'm serious. I've been talking about this for weeks on my radio show. I pray to God that people are sensible and will see that justice, which by the way is a jury of their peers, made that decision. But in today's polarized environment, and we were talking about these leaders, where are the leaders that come in and set the bar and have this unification? There's no money in unification with these leaders. Come on, let's be intellectually honest. There's no money in it because Obama, who was elected and then reelected, had the perfect opportunity to do something about this. The first black man elected to the highest office in the land, but yet still failed in bridging peace between white, black, brown, purple, and polka dots. That's the reality.
Yeah, Steve, let's pause for a moment because we have Newsmax contributor James Klug, who is also on the ground for us in Minneapolis with more on the 7th Street side of the courthouse. James, can you show us what you are seeing there, your camera operator, as you discuss the scene?
Of course. So right behind me, there's a group of roughly 300 to 400 demonstrators that have started gathering, as well as a lot of media awaiting what is going to be happening with this trial. Come with me and check this out. You can actually see all of these individuals right outside of the Hennepin County Government Center, which the courthouse is on the 18th floor. So everyone is here waiting to hear the outcome of this trial.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know, James, that you've been there throughout the day. Tell us the difference, maybe in terms of not just the numbers of people, but the feeling that you're getting out there.
Of course, yeah. So it was actually very quiet. The whole city is pretty much shut down. There is National Guard everywhere. Businesses are boarding up and preparing for what is quite literally, they're expecting the worst. I've actually spoken with some business owners locally, some employees of businesses, and everyone is worried as tensions are rising here in Minneapolis. Now, this crowd was not here more than 2 hours ago. Everyone just started showing up as soon as the verdict was, the ETA for the verdict was being announced.
Yeah, and of course, just to let folks know, it's any moment now. They had expected it sometime between 4:30 and 5 here on the East Coast. And James, thank you very much. If you talk to some of those folks, get back to us. We'd love to hear what they're saying right now, what they're thinking as we await this. And I wanted to get to Diane Diamond very quickly and talk a little bit about the jurors here. There's a lot of pressure on them. We don't know exactly what they were exposed to. I do get concerned for their safety as they try to get out of this building, Diane.
Boy, I am so glad you brought that up, Bob, because every jury trial I have covered, I've tried to talk to the jurors later. Some of them come out to the parking lot to talk to you because they've looked at you as you've looked at them for days and weeks in the courtroom. Imagine, if you will, and I think this will be the topic of my next column. I write a syndicated column once a week. Imagine being in a group with total strangers around you, 12 jurors, one of the other people, and you know the whole world is watching you. Yeah, you've been under a microscope. You know the tensions in your own community and around the world that have erupted since last summer, all of the demonstrations that have occurred and all the crimes that have happened, all the violence. And now they're looking to you to make this decision. Now we know there is a verdict in the Tobin murder case. And this is when all of the anxieties bubble up. These people are going to walk into that courtroom, all eyes will be on them, and when they leave, they may or may not get a security detail. I sure hope that they did plan for this and give them a security detail.
Yeah.
Put them in a bus, take them to their homes under guard so that they can be safe, or put them in a hotel for overnight.
Yeah.
Because I can guarantee you the media, like I used to do, will come after them for comment. That we wondered, did you keep some personal notes? Did you talk into a tape recorder? Tell me what you really thought about this witness or that witness. And their trials and tribulations and anxieties are not over now. In fact, they're going to be compounded now because the media is going to be on their tail.
Yeah, and Heather, I hope their identity remains obscure from the public, because the local paper there in Minneapolis, I think it was, listed so many details of these people without giving their names that even that could put them at risk.
Oh, yeah, they know the names.
Diane, just to talk a little bit more about that, since I brought it up earlier, you know, the details specified, personal details of these people, where you could, if you wanted to figure out exactly who they were, very easily do that. One of the jurors was the niece of a Minneapolis police, a department detective, I think it said. And so there were specific details given. So regardless of whether or not they saw that report that came out yesterday, once they were sequestered, they will know that it exists now as they return home with their families, and their family members know that it came out.
Now, let me tell you why I think the judge is sorry that he didn't sequester these jurors from the very beginning. Because when, at the end of the day, they've been getting in their cars and driving home. Well, I can guarantee you that members of the media or detectives that they have hired have followed those people. They get their license plate number, they get their address by following them home, and the media knows exactly who these people are. Now, it depends. In the state of Florida, for example, they have a sunshine law where you're supposed to reveal the names of the jurors right after the verdict. I remember in the Casey Anthony trial, the judge, Judge Belvin, I believe was his name, said, I'm not going to do that. There have been death threats to these jurors for finding her not guilty. So he withheld the names for a period of time, like I think it was 6 or 9 months. I don't know what the law is in Minnesota. Might they have to reveal the names? Will the judge go ahead and do that? We don't know.
I've been on a verdict, I should say, I've been on a jury that convicted a gang member of a drug crime. And the fellow members of the gang were there in the audience, and you do worry about whether they're angry and whether they're going to take it out on you. These people are being exposed to a huge amount of public attention, and I worry about that, especially when you don't have a calming voice. I don't think anybody right now could give me one name of somebody who's been a calming voice during this, Rob. And I guess the president is going to come out in a little bit and try to provide that, but I haven't seen it.
Well, you know, the left, the Democrats, they have this interesting game they got to play because they obviously don't want this kind of mayhem and nonsense. They don't want cities burning on their watch, right? They were happy to sow this kind of stuff when you had Trump in power because that just makes everything look even worse than it is. But they don't want that right now. But at the same time, they have spent a lot of time building up this idea that there is this systemic racism. This is how they pull elections. This is how they win elections. How they get the African-American vote on their side. They tell them that they're victims. They tell them there's a problem and that they're there to fix it. So they have to kind of play both sides of this thing. It's going to be interesting to see how the president plays this tonight.
Yeah.
What's written up for him.
Right now, we want to go back to Logan Raddick, who is on the ground for us again in Minneapolis. He is right outside of the courthouse. And before I toss to you, Logan, we do have a couple more updates. Now being told, although it's probably fairly obvious, that the verdict will be read closer to 5 p.m. Apparently, that's been posted on the courthouse website. And then also, I'm watching Democrat Mayor Lightfoot right now delivering some remarks. I'm not sure exactly where she is, but I'm watching it live, and she's saying, amongst other things, don't test us. We are ready to arrest everyone. So she's trying to, you know, put the kibosh on any looting or violence that may happen. Not sure if that will help, Logan.
Well, Heather, hopefully that will help the city of Chicago. Obviously, Minneapolis, the unrest is growing. The crowd is growing here downtown. We actually were just talking to the girlfriend of George Floyd, Courtney Ross, and the mother of his daughter, that's Roxy Washington. They were holding a little press conference impromptu just behind where we are right now. And I asked Roxy Washington, I said, if all 3 charges come back guilty, what will you do? She said, we'll move on to the other police-involved shootings, and we will make our voices heard about that. And she was basically saying, if it's not all 3 charges that are found guilty by this jury, then she says she prays for Minnesota, she prays for the United States. At a different tone from Courtney Ross, the girlfriend of George Floyd, I asked her about how she wanted George Floyd to be remembered as a man. She started breaking down in tears. They were also talking about how there's a history of racism here in Minnesota, so it's a very tense atmosphere. Obviously, this crowd continues to grow as we get closer to this verdict. And then once that decision is made, no matter what happens, we're expecting some sort of a harsh reaction to it.
Logan, can your photographer, once again, as you did earlier, kind of show us the scene and as you continue to describe it for us? Because it has grown tremendously since we checked with you.
Yep, so we'll just show you what's going on right here. People are holding signs. There's a crowd. Obviously, there's still a lot of media members here, but the amount of people who are here to protest and await this verdict have grown substantially. It is now primarily made up of ordinary citizens here. They're now chanting George Floyd as we continue to look into the crowd. Right now, the National Guard is out in full force, though, on top of the Hennepin County Courthouse, and this fence has been erected in front of the courthouse that is about 20 feet high. The plywood is also in front of the Minneapolis City Hall. But the question is, if there is anger and outrage and potential violence tonight, where would it occur? Because these government buildings are very secure, but other places just have plywood up right now. And again, some of these people I've talked to who are from Minnesota say they want peace no matter what happens, but there are still people coming in from out of town. And if they're coming here from out of town, who knows what they're looking for.
Yeah, Logan, have they taken any shots at you as a member of the media? Anybody yelling at you?
I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Yeah, I wanted to see if anybody there has yelled at you, a member of the media, whether there's any kind of negative reaction right now to the media itself. We want to make sure you're safe, of course, but I wanted to get a feel for the...
Can you repeat that one more time, Bob?
Sure. Do you feel safe right now, Logan? Well, I think that...
having a hard time hearing you.
Yeah, that's okay,
if anybody would support Chauvin in this case. There was a sign that said drop the charges, but the vast majority of the people here in downtown Minneapolis are supporting the Floyd family in this trial, and obviously the noise is intensifying, the crowd is growing, and we're going to find out this verdict any minute.
Hey, Logan, can you show us who's doing that yelling there? I don't know, it looks like it may be to your right. Can you show us who's yelling over there and stirring up the audience?
Again.
It is behind this tree that we're right next to. There is a person with a megaphone right here leading this chant. Let's move the camera down a little bit if we can. And I don't know if you can see him right here. Actually, yep, we see that man with a megaphone. He's leading that crowd right now out towards the street away from the courthouse here in downtown Minneapolis. But as you can see, there's still people walking in. This crowd continues to grow. Obviously, the whole country knows a verdict is coming soon. And the people here in the Twin Cities have been following along for about 11 months' time now.
Logan, our other reporter on the scene there is James Klug. Can you kind of give us and to everyone at home a feel for where you are located? Because there was a large crowd there. There's James's shot, a large crowd gathering where he is located as well, outside the courthouse.
Yeah, so James is at a different angle. This is out in front of the courthouse, but the courthouse obviously has four sides. There's another side behind us across from the city hall where there are people gathered there as well. That's right near the metro station and right near U.S. Bank's headquarters. So people are gathering on all sides of the building right now, but right in the front across from South 7th Street is where we are right now. You can hear that noise behind me, and we're just looking around right now. People are continuing to drive into downtown Minneapolis. It was a ghost town this morning. You could walk across the street without a fear of being hit by a car if you didn't look either way, and now it's basically traffic gridlock, and there are people all over these streets.
Yeah, a moment ago, folks, we showed you a shot outside that food store, that little grocery store where George Floyd died. Now we're back to the square there outside the courthouse. Are the people yelling? Are they angry? What are they saying?
Bob, repeat that one more time. Sorry, it's pretty loud here.
Heather, you asked him. You can't hear me.
We're just trying to figure out what exactly are they saying. We know that they were chanting George Floyd a short
right
time
now,
ago.
what they're saying is shut it down. So basically, before there's even a verdict yet, they're already protesting law enforcement, city government. So there's really a lot of opposition, even if they come back with 3 guilty charges.
Are you concerned? Are you concerned about what's going to happen now within probably about 10 minutes when the verdict is announced?
Heather, I'm definitely concerned. Talking to James Klug, who's also here with us, he says that this is a different atmosphere than in Portland, Oregon, where he spent a lot of time. James told me he saw a drive-by shooting a couple of nights ago. I mean, there's a lawless atmosphere in this city that you can see. You don't really see many officers on the street. We've seen National Guard. But these businesses are just preparing for possible unrest tonight. And it just seems like even though there's about 3,000 National Guard troops here, people still feel pretty dangerous in that sense. People are coming up to each other and saying, stay safe and whatnot. So there is that fear that things could get out of hand.
When you say they are National Guard troops, where are they?
Bob, I'm having a hard time hearing you again. There are National Guardsmen here. There are about 3,000, and they're from the Minnesota National Guard. They've also been called in from other states, and then you have the state and local law enforcement here. But again, aside from the National Guardsmen we see behind me, there's some law enforcement mingled in. There's a huge crowd here, and who knows how many people from the Twin Cities could show up. There's over 1 million people in this metropolitan area, and then as I've been saying on broadcasts past 2 days, we've seen people from Florida to California making their way here. So it really is a crowd that could become massive. From 250 to 300 people last night, we're expecting to see thousands here in downtown tonight.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you can hear me, but in reference to the National Guard, I did see some images of some of the National Guard vehicles heading out onto the streets. You were at George Floyd Square where this incident happened, May 25th, 2020. What do you expect the situation will be out there at the store where this happened to George Floyd?
That's a good question. There could be a scene there. That whole area, as we showed a couple of shows, I don't believe we were down there on American Agenda yesterday, but that whole area was blocked off, 4 different roadblocks. There's a memorial in front of the Cut Food store where Floyd died. The Safeway across the street used to be a gas station. That is now a place where people have bonfires and hang out. They painted People's Way up there. That really is a dedication site to George Floyd. It doesn't, we don't know right now if people are going to go down there, but what we do know is that the vast majority of people are going to be down here downtown because that is where the verdict is coming, right behind us at the courthouse. and this is where the majority of the action will be seen. But again, we could see it spread out. People could flow to Brooklyn Center tonight with the Dante Wright situation still unfolding. His funeral is on Thursday. So there's a lot going on in Minnesota aside from this Floyd trial. So we could see unrest pop up in multiple areas in the Twin Cities.
Yeah, if you could step aside, Logan, so we could see that crowd again, we'd appreciate it. I wanted to give the market difference between what we see outside the Cup Foods and what we're seeing here. It seems, Rob, that when we look at where George Floyd died, it's a somber kind of mood there. The people are there giving their respects. There it is on the left of your screen. And then on the right of your screen, that's where we hear the yelling. That's where you hear the anger.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like, the right side is right outside the courthouse. The left, I just read a tweet, actually, from a reporter somewhere in Minneapolis saying that the owners of that, I think it's Cup Foods is the name of the store, right outside there is where Floyd got killed. They shut down the shop and they boarded everything up when they heard the verdict was coming today. So they're closed down and they're ready for whatever's going to happen. But they are definitely boarded up. And on the right side, you've just got a lot of people outside waiting. Again, I mean, this is, and we were just talking about it. I mean, this is a mob of people, a lot of whom are not going to really understand, what's going to happen with this verdict. A lot of people, I think, that are very angry, the kinds of people that are out protesting and looting, are going to hear that he's convicted of perhaps a manslaughter or maybe a second degree. They're not going to hear a first degree murder, and they're not going to hear he's going to, get the death sentence today.
That's right.
And I think
we know that for sure.
Right, he's not going to be sentenced, and it's it's as simple as that. And when I think a lot of these people don't understand the criminal justice system, they don't understand that it's 12 men and women that are literally picked out of a hat to make this decision, that are a group of their peers. And when they don't hear exactly what they want, which is that, Derek Chauvin is going to be shot to death tonight by a firing squad, who knows how they're going to react? And that's the really scary part.
Yeah, Steve Sanchez, you do get that feeling that the more this develops, the more we see there. We have Logan, we have our reporters there, including James Klug. You get the sense that it's just going to be.
Thank you, Hit Hard.
Almost what the verdict is.
I absolutely do. It should concern us all. I mean, every city in America, it's, I talked to my children earlier, adult children, I've got grandkids. I said, look, get the kids from school, go home, relax, just to be safe. And isn't it sad in America today, this is where we're at? I mean, think about it. Afraid of our own people. I mean, we're American citizens. We're supposed to be walking a different walk. And again, this is because you've got a handful of people in leadership that do not want to lead. Money is involved. And when money's involved and you're making a lot of money on divide versus unite, you're going to get this. And I feel for people. Don't get me wrong. I mean, George Floyd shouldn't have died. I understand. We all get it. It's a sad situation. I think we all understand that, but let justice be served. It's not perfect. Let's just go back to O.J. Simpson. Yeah. It wasn't perfect there, was it? I mean, so these things happen, but to burn down your own city and people's businesses that you're supposed to love and care about, how does that make sense?
And we've just seen it happen time and time again. We want to quickly reset here and let everyone know what we're waiting for. Of course, a verdict has been reached in the Derek Chauvin murder trial. He's facing 3 charges: second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter. 44 witnesses over 3 weeks. 12 jurors have made their decision. They did that in just 10 hours and 20 minutes. And shortly, Judge Peter Cahill and the jurors will return to that courtroom to let the world know what their verdict is.
Yeah, on the lower right-hand side of your screen, you see the courthouse. That could change any moment as the jury comes in. We're keeping track of it any time now. Now, normally you would be seeing Chris Salcedo's show. We are continuing our breaking coverage as we await the verdict in the Chauvin murder trial. It's going to be read any time now. Yeah. But we do want to bring in Chris Salcedo and get your thoughts, Chris, as you see all of this developing.
Hi, guys. I've been listening to pundits across media today as the first word that we received that there was going to be a verdict in the Chauvin trial. And there's been a lot of talk of that community or this community, and I was struck by, hey, folks, This is the United States of America. There are a lot of folks out there who are trafficking in division right now. They're the people in the bullhorns that you see there at the site right now in Minneapolis, who are, regardless of what happens with this verdict, are trying to push for division, for violence, for some sort of political gain. We saw this as an example from Maxine Waters, as she tried to light a fuse, a powder keg, onto an already raw situation. There are people who are angling for political advantage in this situation, people from all walks of life, and they're all dedicated to one prospect, that we are no longer the United States of America, talking about this community, that community. And that type of talk, I think, is dangerous. I think that type of talk leads to where some people of ill repute, some people with ill intentions are trying to take this country. And back when I was growing up, and boy, that's a phrase I thought I'd never say, guys. Back in my day, we talked about things are not perfect, but we're trying to make a more perfect union. And there seems to be a segment, a very, very small minority, trying to divide us to protect themselves or maybe empower themselves. I'm just getting this sense out there. We see examples of Maxine Waters. We see the Black Lives, I call them Black Lives Matter organization, whose leadership.
That's it, the Black Lives.
$1 million homes after they're getting donations from a bunch of woke corporations. How is that unifying anybody?
Fuck Maxine Waters.
A message and for better communities and better understanding and better unity. We're not talking to one another anymore. We're yelling at
Maxine Waters is a fraud.
That seems to me to be the agenda of the other side, and we can't break through the bullhorns and the calls for escalated violence that will go unattended by the United States Congress. So I'm very concerned right now. As I just got some breaking news that the Republicans were thwarted from holding Maxine Waters accountable for her call to violence. The Democrats blocked that. There's no unity of purpose anymore in this country, and it's frankly scaring the hell out of me. I gotta say.
Well, Chris, stand by if you would. Let's bring back our national correspondent, Logan Raddick, who is right in the thick of it. What you're seeing on your screen right there is where George Floyd was killed. And then right now, Logan Raddick outside the courthouse. Logan, what's going on?
Well, Bob, it is definitely intensifying here outside of the courthouse. It is right now 5 o'clock Eastern time, 4 o'clock Central time. So we were expecting the verdict to come between 3:30 and 4 local time. Of course, it's gone a little bit over, but it's allowed this crowd to really grow and also get a lot louder. I'll step out of the shot right now. They're yelling, George Floyd. Say his name, George Floyd. That is the chant right now. And this is a much, much bigger crowd than the protests we saw last night that shut down the street right to the left.
There they go. Black Lives Matter. There they go.
South 3rd Avenue. So, I mean, this crowd is intense. They're here. They want, obviously, Chauvin to be convicted on all 3 charges. But the question is, what will happen if that...
Hell with Auntie Maxine. You can throw her plastic ass with the Chucky dolls.
Washington. I asked her what happens if Chauvin is not found guilty on all 3 charges. She says, quote, I pray for Minnesota. I pray for the United States. But even if that is the case, if he's convicted on all 3 charges, they're saying that they're going to move on to other situations with officer-involved shootings because they say that this is the straw that broke the camel's back. So whatever comes out of this verdict, it's not going to quash this momentum for this movement that is here. But the question is, in terms of the violence, that's what everybody's worried about. What will happen tonight? Not an enormous law enforcement presence, given the fact that there's 3,000 National Guard troops. I mean, if you look around right here, I'll step out of the shot again. You look into this crowd, you don't see officers mixed in. There's National Guard standing on the balcony. But, you know, it's just a bunch of people who are riled up. And it'll get a lot more interesting once it gets towards nightfall. That is when these protests happen. We saw it start at 7:30 local time last night. And after a verdict, who knows what could happen.
Let's bring back in Katie Cherkasky and Diane Diamond, if we can, and ask them a little bit more about this delay that we're seeing. You know, we were originally told a verdict would be announced between 4:30 p.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern time, and then that was pushed back, and then we were told a little bit closer to 5 p.m., Katie, and now we're passing the 5 p.m. hour as we continue to wait. Is that an indication that something's going on behind the scenes?
Well, I would say it's pretty typical. Sometimes the judge wants to gather everyone back in the courtroom and has a hope that it will all be ready at a certain time. And in this case, you have so many other considerations, all the safety plans that are in place, and who knows who else is calling to ask for a bit more time to solidify some of that stuff. That would be my best guess about what's going on here. But many times you'll see a delay. You have to wait for everyone to be back in the courtroom that you need there to read the verdict.
Diane, your comment.
I think this judge would have done himself a big favor. I don't mean to keep putting it back on him, but he's in charge of this trial. If he had called some
up, there you go.
Diane, I don't want to interrupt you, but we want to listen in.
Shut up, yo.
The judge has taken his position back in court. We don't know if he'll speak any time now. He could be waiting for the jury to re-enter, but let's listen in.
I'm gonna speak on that after this. New Black Panther.
All rise for the jury. All right, please be seated. Members of the jury, I understand you have a verdict. Members of the jury, I will now read the verdicts as they will appear in the permanent records of the 4th Judicial District. State of Minnesota, County of Hennepin, District Court, 4th Judicial District. State of Minnesota Plaintiff versus Derek Michael Chauvin, Defendant. Verdict, count 1. Court file number 27, CR 20-12646. We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 1, unintentional second-degree murder while committing a felony, find the defendant guilty. This verdict agreed to this 20th day of April, 2021 at 1:44 p.m.
Yes!
Signed, juror foreperson, juror number 19. Same caption, verdict count 2. We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 2, third-degree murder, perpetrating an eminently dangerous act, find the defendant guilty. This verdict agreed to this 20th day of April, 2021 at 1:45 p.m. Signed by jury foreperson, juror number 19. Same caption, verdict count 3. We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 3, second-degree manslaughter, culpable negligence, creating an unreasonable risk, find the defendant guilty. This verdict agreed to this 20th day of April, 2021 at 1:45 p.m. Jury foreperson 019. Members of the jury, I'm now going to ask you individually if these are your true and correct verdicts. Please respond yes or no. Juror number 2, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 9, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 19, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 27, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 44, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 52, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 55, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 79, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 85, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 89, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 91, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 92, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Are these your verdicts? So say you one, so say you all.
Yes.
Members of the jury, I find that the verdicts as read reflect the will of the jury and will be filed accordingly. I have to thank you on behalf of the people of the state of Minnesota for not only jury service, but heavy-duty jury service. What I'm going to ask you to do now is to follow the deputy back in your usual room, and I will join you in a few minutes to answer questions and to advise you further. So, all rise for the jury.
All right, Derek Chauvin, the former officer in Minneapolis, found guilty on all 3 counts: second-degree murder, third-degree murder, second-degree manslaughter. Rob, it'll be interesting to see what the response is. It seems like a positive response in the crowd so far.
Yeah, what happens tonight, we don't know. I mean, obviously right now it's still light outside. There's a lot of security around there. You've got a group of people, I would assume that's some members of the family of Floyd or friends of Floyd there celebrating. We don't know what this turns into as night falls. Again, sometimes there's no appeasing a mob in a situation like that. We have 3 guilty counts. The first thing that I thought of in my head was, and we talked a lot about this with Dershowitz, Alan Dershowitz. How on earth was he expecting to get a fair trial in this thing? There was a tremendous amount of pressure on that jury. I mean, you would have had to have been out of your mind to vote to acquit this man, knowing full well that everybody is going to figure out who you are, and you're going to have the likes of BLM, Antifa protesters coming after you with everything they got. If you're the one person that says, oh, no, I think he was innocent. I think George Floyd probably ate a pocket full of drugs when the cops came up to him. He had a bad heart. They put him on the ground. If he hadn't done those things, he might have had a stiff neck the next day, but he died instead. Nobody's going to say that. So I think that the case for an appeal here, and even the judge said this, I think yesterday, the case for the appeal is very, very strong.
Yes, and we're watching now as Derek Chauvin is taken away in handcuffs. His sentencing will follow this. And as we said earlier, with the second-degree murder charge, being found guilty of that, that carried the strongest sentence of 40 years, so he could face up to 40 years. One of the other thoughts I had, Rob, since you brought up Professor Dershowitz, Professor Dershowitz actually believed that there was enough for a mistrial in this case. Not only what the judge said, Judge Cahill, that based on Congresswoman Maxine Waters' statements, that once an appeal is filed, which obviously it will be, that the entire case could be thrown out as a result of what she said. He believed at this point up until now that the judge should have in fact granted a mistrial, that he did not.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, and Alan Dershowitz he's no lightweight in this game. I always remember what we did with O.J. Simpson. He's a lifelong Democrat, so he's not partisan on this issue. He looks at it from an interesting perspective. We had him on my show just the other night. He looked at all this the same way. I mean, there's no way that the pressure, the weight of the world wasn't on these 12 jurors. Full well that your name is going to get out there. And again, if you're going to be the one of 1 or 2 people that are going to say, you know what, I didn't buy this. I didn't buy that this is what happened to this guy, that Chauvin actually tried to kill him. I think that if you take most people and lay them on the ground, they potentially will be able to get back up at some point. The idea that there was a blood choke, that was the first claim that they made. They had the guy that was the karate guy or whatever on there trying to say it was a blood choke. How are you going to blood choke a guy out when your carotid arteries are here and your knee is back here? Yeah. I mean, if you put a person on the ground and you put your knee on the back of their neck, I'm sorry, anybody that's had a bigger brother knows you're going to get up after that. So, I mean, there was a lot of things to speculate on this, and this was not an open and shut case. But at the end of the day, no matter what was said, if you're on that jury, you live in Minneapolis, are you going to be the one person that says, you know what, I'm going to vote to acquit, and I'm going to let Antifa burn down my house, run me out of this city, and I'll have to run for the rest of my life?
Yeah, in fact, let's bring in Katie to comment on that. As a criminal defense attorney, Katie, is this grounds for appeal?
Well, I think this case has tons of appellate issues that are absolutely going to be raised after, of course, we see the sentence. And so that's kind of the next phase of the case. But absolutely, there's issues with the venue that wasn't shifted out of Minneapolis with all of the pressure there. There's issues with not sequestering the jurors. There's issues with the comments of politicians. But on an appeal, what you have to show is that would have, or likely would have, changed the outcome of the trial. I think there are some very strong arguments here for that. I think that, my belief is, as a former prosecutor and as a current criminal defense attorney, I do believe the system can be fair, and I do trust in the process if we really go back to that and have it be about the evidence and not about all of those outside pressures, but really those are practically going to be a consideration. And so the question for the courts is really, how do you get to the most fair process here? And was there something that was so fundamentally unfair here that Derek Chauvin could have never possibly received a fair trial, even though we go through all this jury selection, even though we do our best to select people that say they're going to be fair? Practically speaking, how possible is that? So that's going to be the big thing for the appeal in my mind, in addition to some of the other issues in the record.
Katie, as you're speaking, we're watching a live shot of George Floyd Square, there where the incident happened, May 25th, 2020, outside of the Cup store, I believe it's called.
Cup Foods.
Yeah, Cup Foods. And we're seeing demonstrators put up there on the sign right across the street at the gas station there, "Justice for George Floyd, justice served." So Oh, and then there goes the question mark.
Oh,
I was about to
now
say,
there's a
that
twist.
changes it. That does change it because it does seem like the crowd was relatively happy with the outcome, but now a question as to whether or not that type of attitude will be maintained.
And Chris Salcedo, if you're still with us, because this is your hour, sir, that kind of was a twist on the outcome there because you saw a lot of people who appeared to be happy with this verdict. Folks, he was found guilty of everything he was charged with, all 3 counts, including second-degree murder. He is likely going away for a very long time if these charges stick and stay, if an appeal doesn't change it. We saw him walk out of the courtroom in handcuffs. And then the question mark there, Chris, may have changed what happens tonight.
I don't think it changes anything. I think it was no matter what was put in there, what was going to happen tonight is already baked in from some folks, as I alluded to earlier, who are really behind all of the discontent here in this country. Now, I'll leave it up to the folks who were sitting there and watching this jury trial and getting all the details. I tend not to second guess juries. But I will say this, I think it was Rob earlier who was saying the amount of pressure that was on these people, that you would have to be living under a rock not to know that in these United States today, there is a right and a wrong way to think. And you're going to be punished if you think the right or the wrong way, despite what the law is secondary, sometimes tertiary. Now, as it pertains to people's political objectives, and as we have articulated with the leadership of BLM to their financial success. So I was watching some folks earlier on a competing network, a guy by the name of Don Lemon said America is on trial here. And that type of rhetoric, coupled with the type of rhetoric we heard from Maxine Waters, lighting a fuse of violence, which my understanding is you're supposed to be impeached for that kind of thing, right? But no, there won't be any impeachment there. This is like that question mark. When you guys were sitting there reacting to it, I sat back myself and said, "Oh goodness gracious!" It seems to me that this reaction is going to be baked in because, as we have seen, with every segment of evolution in our society since the election, and since even before the election, when you take one step, you get perhaps justice here. That's not the objective. That's not going to be enough. There's going to be more taken and more taken and more taken, not commensurate with the law. So these are my concerns. And I think that we're going to see a lot of upheaval for days to come.
Yeah, you had Congresswoman Maxine Waters calling for more confrontations, and either, it was a slip of the tongue or she didn't know any better, calling for first degree murder, which was not even a possibility, but maybe all those folks out there listening to her weren't aware of that, and maybe now they think, well, wait, he should have gotten first degree murder, although they thought that already. And then you have President Biden jumping in saying right verdict, there will be a right verdict. You have the Star Tribune publishing the bios of all of the jurors with identifying details for each and every one of them. Let's bring back in our national correspondent, Logan Raddick, who is standing by as you take a live look right there outside of the George Floyd Square, where Logan was earlier this week for us, but now he's outside of the courthouse, and he can give us an update as to the feeling right now that the verdict's been announced.
Well, Heather, I was actually listening to the verdict being read on our air, and as that was happening, this crowd erupted, and they're continuing to grow. Horns are honking. There's absolute gridlock on South 7th Street when they found out that Chauvin was found guilty on all 3 charges. So this is becoming a celebration of sorts. People are clapping. There are chants behind me, but the question is, how is this going to be? What's the reaction going to be tonight? Is it going to be a peaceful celebration throughout Minneapolis? Will we see some destruction? Because we know that the people here have been through 11 months of just, going through this trial over and over again. Now it's finally ended, but what will the reaction be? So far it's been peaceful. High fives, hugs. People are happy that this is finally over with. They think that they saw justice being served today. But of course, it remains to be seen what will happen tonight. But this is what the Floyd family was saying they expected. Other people around the country, thought maybe there was a chance there could be a mistrial here with all the public figures weighing in. But what it seems like it will be on this Tuesday night is a celebration for many people here in Minneapolis.
Okay, Logan, if we could do this again to ask you to move aside so that we can see the crowd, and we want to bring Diane Diamond back in. So we're still seeing the scene outside the courthouse, but Diane, you've watched a lot of these over many years. Wanted to get your thoughts here.
Yeah, I'm coming back to the verdict. He was guilty. Derek Chauvin was found guilty on all the counts. Everything they charged him with, he was found guilty. And as a yeoman's job, as the defense attorney did, to try to deflect attention away from just that 9 minutes and 29 seconds of the knee on the neck. We talked about the 17 minutes leading up to that. Let's face it, it was that video, the knee on the neck for almost 10 minutes. And that's iconic still that is burned into everybody's mind of Derek Chauvin with the knee on the neck and his hands in his pockets looking like, hey, what's the problem? Like, what's anybody upset about? I'm just subduing a suspect. That is what convicted this man. I'm not saying the prosecution didn't do a good job. They did. And I think the defense attorney did as good a job as he could, although that closing was way long. I just think that this speaks to the power of these body cameras that we think all the police should use.
No problem, Unique.
What we saw here, that crowd and the crowd outside the bodega where he was killed got what they wanted because there is that body video. And police departments everywhere should realize, however you have to jigger your budgets, get your street officers body cameras. Not only can they weed out the bad cops, but they can also prove that some cops are good and they're doing what they should be doing. And it's the community that is complaining unnecessarily. So that's what I'm thinking about right now. I'm also thinking about Derek Chauvin. Boy, they have pulled him out in handcuffs right away. And he's going into lockup, and I can't imagine what he's going to endure there and behind bars in the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in terms of the time frame now, Diane, we have the verdict, guilty on all 3 counts. We know that the sentencing will come next. When do you expect that will happen based on previous trials that you've covered?
Well, sometimes it comes right away, the same moment. I mean, I remember the Pamela Smart case from way long, many years ago. She was found guilty, and in a minute, 32 seconds, she was sentenced to death. She was sentenced to life in prison, rather. So sometimes it can come right away. Sometimes it can be as much as a month away. Maybe Katie has a better feel for it. I don't think this judge has given us any indication.
Katie, I don't know if you heard Diane, but do you have any feel for when they might actually sentence Chauvin?
Right, I did hear. Well, I'm not a Minnesota attorney, but I believe that they will need to prepare a pre-sentencing report on the sentencing phase. So typically it would take a few weeks to get to that portion of the trial. So I believe
Katie, just to Rob's pointing out something he's finding right here. It's in 8 weeks. I don't know if there's a date, Rob.
I didn't see a date, but yeah, looking like what the end.
So 2 months, 2 months to get it together.
Yeah, we're looking at a live shot right now. There is Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, along with other Democrats. Is there any sound available? Can we hear what they're saying? Not sure if there's any sound there, but they're speaking out in favor of the verdict that's just come down. So that's Democratic leaders already out in force and voicing their opinions, as many of them did prior to the decision and the verdict coming in as well. Bob?
Yeah, Rob, as I look at this, okay, we all saw the George Floyd tape last year. Yeah. Everybody was heartbroken seeing that happen. Yeah. You mentioned this guy wasn't an angel. The defense attorney tried to show what Chauvin was dealing with at that situation. And it wasn't like everything.
Thank you, Robin.
He had difficult decisions to make. Probably at the end, it was that 9 minutes of the knee on the neck, no matter what happened up to that.
Yeah,
But I was going to ask you, does it matter now? We have audio.
I agree, Phoenix.
In a matter of a year. We
the videotape. We understand the egregious murder, but what about the ones that were not taped on a cell phone? So today, I am relieved. Today, I exhale. But today just marks the beginning of a new phase of a long struggle to bring justice in America. Thank you.
Thank you so much. At this time, we would like to ask Speaker Nancy Pelosi to make some remarks.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. As you probably know, there are many honors that are afforded to a member of Congress, and certainly many more to the Speaker of the House. But nothing surpasses the honor of being with the Black Caucus today, and we have seen a step in the right direction for justice done. Earlier, around 3 o'clock, I spoke to the families to say to them, thank you, God bless you, for your grace and your dignity, for the model that you are, in dealing for justice in the most dignified way. They are in search of justice then, and now they see this giant step. But as our colleagues have said, it's not over. They complimented the Congressional Black Caucus for its role that it has played in all of this. They're eager to see Karen Bass's George Floyd Justice and Policing Act passed and signed by the President into law. All of them. Well, one is just sitting to become a star. Rodney and Terrence is the brothers. Bridget is their sister. We all know Hedda, who's the force of nature within the family. But Gianna is part of Gianna to see this justice after her father. His name is synonymous with justice and dignity and grace and fairness. Thank God. Was right counsel.
All right, it looks like we've lost our shot there, but that obviously was Speaker Nancy Pelosi speaking with the Congressional Black Caucus members reacting to the guilty verdict of former police officer Derek Chauvin, guilty on all 3 counts, as we continue to also monitor the situation outside both the courthouse and outside George Floyd Square there where the incident happened back a year ago almost.
Yeah, and one of the things I was leading to, Rob, is we have seen justice served. Are they?
What is that? Yeah, what are they doing? It looks like they're just throwing money on the ground and then picking. Is this? I guess people just. Is this their way of condolences? I guess I don't know.
Can we find out where this is from? Is this outside?
I think that's outside the Cup
Square?
Foods. In that outside Cup Foods, I don't know if that's actual. Yeah, George Floyd Square.
It's definitely real money. They wouldn't be
actual money.
picking it up if it wouldn't care if it wasn't real money.
So you give it to thy family, to thy kids. Damn it! Hell no!
And so, Rob, if you look at the system, the judicial system this time, I was going through the steps. What we saw the judicial system end up with a jury coming to the conclusion he was guilty of all the counts, and justice being served. And then the question mark outside, right near that Cup Foods, by the way, up on the little marquee there. Near it, on the gas station, by the way, that I don't think it exists any longer as a going business. But how does this play out? We just saw Nancy Pelosi say it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, well, I mean, this anything from politicians right now is going to be nonsense, right? I mean, you don't go to them for in a time like this. They're rarely sensible to begin with, and in a time like this, they're certainly not. Justice served with the question mark, I thought, is kind of ironic because you could say that on both sides. I think a lot of the people in that crowd were hoping to see a first-degree murder charge, and I think a lot of people that actually paid attention to the facts of the trial would wonder if justice was served on the other side of this thing as far as for Chauvin, because you had somebody that in the act of a crime, there was pretty clear evidence that he ingested some amount of drugs There was evidence that he couldn't have been, he wasn't able to be waken up by his friends that morning because he had taken so many drugs, potentially ate a lot more drugs while he was being arrested. You know, the cops are coming, you know, get it out of your pockets, get it into your body so you can't get arrested for it. You had him saying he couldn't breathe while he was standing up. So he's standing up and he says he can't breathe. He says he can't go in the back of the police car because he's claustrophobic. Mm-hmm. He's resisting arrest. They put him on the ground. They put him on the ground. They hold him on the ground with the knee. I already went over this. He didn't get blood choked out. You can't blood choke somebody on the back of the neck with the carotid arteries on the front sides. So there's just, I don't know. I mean, in a case like this, you look at it and you wonder what happens to facts, because at the end of the day, I still think that the pressure was on, and I think the prosecution could have made a much even weaker case and gotten all 3 counts guilty, because at the end of the day, nobody in their right mind was going to say, I think this guy's innocent.
Yeah,
they're just not going to do it.
I want to give people an explanation as to what we were seeing just moments ago during the live pictures that were coming from George Floyd Square there outside of Cup Foods. Someone apparently had come into the crowd and thrown a bunch of money up into the air. Another man came into the scene and directing all the folks who were just grabbing the money to run away with it to put the money instead behind the ropes there at the scene at George Floyd Square, behind the ropes for those people who were protecting the area since last year. So that's some of what was happening with money being thrown into the air and different people appearing to, get into a little squabble over it. But we'll check back and see.
If you're joining us, Derek Chauvin has been found guilty of all 3 counts, including second-degree murder. The result of the trial in Minneapolis. Let's bring in Chris Salcedo for a reaction to this guilty verdict. Chris.
Hi, Bob. I was listening to what you and Rob were talking about in your line of questioning. Looking at the case, justice has been served. A jury of someone's peers has found him guilty, Chauvin in all 3 counts. What I think the maximum I heard was 75 years if he gets the maximum sentence on all of them, and we don't know. We won't know for a couple of weeks now if that's going to be the case. But then they cut to Nancy Pelosi into the Congressional Black Caucus, and they said it right there for everybody to see. It is this case, yeah, all well and good, but it's not over. We're not done using cases like this for our political benefit. Again, by many people's standards across this country, the guilty verdicts were the proper verdict, a jury of one's peers, and it's been reached. But again, the goalposts are going to be moved. We need to continue to make the politics of division continue to work for us in the Democrat Socialist Party. And that's precisely what I heard from Pelosi and precisely what I heard from the air quotes leadership of the Congressional Black Caucus. We are going to continue that. Just because we got the right verdict here, and just because the American justice system, which we have maligned for so many years, just because it worked in this case, doesn't mean there isn't systemic racism in the United States of America. And that's they even when the right conclusions, and even by their own predicate and standards, are reached, then no, it's never, ever enough. So the idea that we're going to be able to get back some sort of normalcy in the United States of America, I don't think the political left is going to allow that to happen. Why? Because they enjoy so much success by keeping us divided. It's a big concern I have, guys. By the way, nobody's mentioning, and something that Rob had brought up before, about all the pressure on this jury. Mm-hmm. Everybody's been mentioning the political figures improperly weighing in on this. Everybody's been mentioning the intimidation, the threats, and the violence being spurred on by Maxine Waters and carried out by Antifa and BLM. Nobody's mentioning before the fact that before this trial even started, the city settled a $27 million lawsuit with the Floyd family.
Yeah, and a non-sequestered jury.
Yeah. Exactly my point. And then why you didn't get a change of venue here when all the stuff that I just mentioned was all out there in the ether. Wouldn't it be ironic? I'm just going to say this, and I'll throw it back to you guys. Wouldn't it be ironic if Maxine Waters leads to the predicate of an appeal and maybe a dismissal of some of these charges because of her big mouth?
Yeah, that would be interesting. Thanks, Chris. We're going to be back with you in just a moment.
Yeah. That's certainly what the judge seems to think will happen. And just one more thing about throwing the money, real dollar bills outside there at the square, at George Floyd Square. Remember that one of the issues, as we look at it again, that happened there at the Cup Foods back a year ago, May 25th, 2020, George Floyd was accused of using counterfeit money. So that's part of also why that's happening.
Hey, folks, thanks for joining us. I'm Bob Sellers.
And I'm Heather Childers, and we are continuing our breaking coverage of the Chauvin murder trial. The jury just ruling former police officer Derek Chauvin is guilty on all 3 charges in the killing of George Floyd. That's guilty of second-degree murder, guilty of third-degree murder, and guilty of second-degree manslaughter. And joining us now for reaction to the guilty verdicts is Republican Congressman from Texas, Congressman Brian Babin. So Congressman Babin, just your overall thoughts on the day and this, 3 guilty counts for this former police officer.
Well, our system of justice is supposed to work. A jury has found him guilty on all 3 counts. What can you say? There was an enormous amount of pressure on these jurors, I'm sure, from the President of the United States to Maxine Waters in the U.S. House. Incredibly, I wish that President Biden would have equal compassion for victims of illegal alien criminals and their angel families that he's had on some of these other individuals that in these places of Democrat-controlled cities. And I also wish that equal prosecution and fervor by Mrs. Waters would be carried out to those who have been committing arson, murder, and all of these crimes across this country for the last several months. In fact, the last year. And there just seems to be a double standard here. And certainly my heart goes out to the family of George Floyd. But it just seems like it smacks of politics so very, very much. And quite frankly, I think it's going to really put a damper on law enforcement in this country as they call for, they have to have a guilty verdict, or everybody needs to go out and make sure that they let them, as Ms. Waters said, quite frankly, I thought she was inciting violence. And doing a very, very same thing that she accused Trump of doing and even voted impeaching for her. But we have to have law enforcement. And at the same time that they are absolutely enabling this violence and riots to go on across the country, they're calling for the defunding of the police departments around the country. Some of them even calling not only for defunding, but abolishing of police departments. And that is not a good thing, especially for these neighborhoods and communities of color who need police officers badly in their midst, quite frequently.
Yeah, it's interesting, Congressman, that you talk about it being political. Immediately we saw the Congressional Black Caucus out in front of the Capitol with Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House.
No problem, brother.
Anyway, now we didn't hear everything that was said. We heard
But no problem, just for me.
We heard the fight's not over. We didn't hear anybody say, please be calm, the system works.
Exactly. And I'll tell you what, a lot of the rhetoric, as the presiding judge over this case, over the Chauvin case, said himself that some of the rhetoric he's heard from Maxine Waters and others, calling for that they better find him guilty and the maximum, that could actually overturn this verdict. So we don't know what's going to happen in the future. But I want to see justice done in this country, and we have seen justice here. We all saw the terrible videos, and then we saw other videos that showed it kind of ameliorated the first video that we saw, and that Mr. Floyd was full of drugs, fentanyl, and other things. I think the justice system has to work. Justice has to be blind. Were these jurors coerced in any way by the rhetoric of Ms. Waters, President Biden, and many, many others?
Thank you, just for me.
In fact, I know when they were picking and choosing this jury, there were several jurors, potential jurors, that said, I'm not going to be a juror here. I'm not going to, be subjected to the persecution that this may entail for me sitting on this jury.
Yeah. Well, Congressman Babin, we really appreciate your time and thank you very much for joining us with this breaking news coming in on this verdict. We now wait for the governor of Minnesota, who said that he will come forward and have a statement, and then also the president of the United States, President Biden, who said that he will also have a statement a little bit later. But of course, as you mentioned, Speaker Pelosi out first and immediately politicizing this verdict and calling for the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act to be passed in the Senate as a result of this. I think now we're going to go back to our national correspondent, Logan Raddick, who is still on the ground for us in Minneapolis outside
I love y'all
the
back.
courthouse with what he is seeing. Logan.
Well, Heather, one of the Black Lives Matter activists that is talking over the megaphone declared victory for the movement's cause, but they said that it's going to go beyond just what they're saying is police brutality. They say they're going to advocate for changes in the school system, in the medical profession. They say that this event is just a stepping stone for their cause. Let's take a look over here. There are people selling merchandise. There are people celebrating, having a barbecue as well. But the activists continue to say that they need to do more in order to advocate for their cause. So you're seeing people celebrate, but you're also people saying that this is not the end of the road. So you're hearing two different messages here. The streets are blocked off around the courthouse. There are over 1,000 people here in downtown Minneapolis just out here celebrating or just observing the verdict in this trial. And like I said, while some people are celebrating, other people say that this is the stepping stone for more activism. Back to you.
Logan, could you ask somebody there if they're satisfied with the verdict? Could you go over and ask somebody and get your photographer to follow you, please?
All right. Sir, do you mind talking on camera for a second? Got a quick question for you. What do you think of the verdict that was decided here?
It was necessary. Too much violence, too much chaos. It was necessary.
Do you think that the jury had a fair shot with everything going on?
You know, with all the news out there and the reaction from around the world, it's hard to believe there was going to be any other verdict. He got convicted on one count, not another, but it was a fast jury, so everyone kind of expected it was going to come down as a unanimous, all three counts, and I don't think anyone's surprised by it.
All right, sir, thank you very much for your time. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of people saying that, they got what they expected here, but, the question is, how does this community rebuild? Will there be efforts to kind of take down some of these boarded up buildings, or will there be more unrest in this city? Back to you.
Well, let's hope that there will not be more unrest. Logan, thank you very much. We'll check back with you. Well, the jury, just to let you know, just ruled that former police officer Derek Chauvin is guilty on all three counts in the killing of George Floyd, guilty of second-degree murder, guilty of third-degree murder, and guilty of second-degree manslaughter. Joining us now for reaction is a Republican congressman from North Carolina, Madison Cawthorn. So,
thank you, Georgia girl.
Thank you very much for joining us. Your take on what has transpired today.
Well, you know what, our justice system did its work. As Republicans, we believe in the rule of law. The only unfortunate thing is that with President Biden and Maxine Waters, or as I call her, Kerosene Maxine, because she's been pouring gasoline all over this situation, weighing in so heavily, you have to ask yourself, even as the judge pointed out, is this going to overturn the actual ruling of this case in the appeals court? And if that's the case, it'll just be very sad. I think politicians need to, we as politicians need to respect the judicial branch as a co-equal branch of government.
What do you think comes next? Because it sounds like...
right, Josh. Tell him, Josh. The voice of the young. Tell him, Josh.
What did she call it?
The George Floyd Justice and Policing Act.
The George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. Taking this, I guess any crisis is an opportunity. And they're trying to turn this, which to a lot of people was the justice system working, and trying to go beyond that and turn it more political.
Well, you know what? It's very sad. You just saw on MSNBC right before I came on to your show, and also you heard Nancy Pelosi right out over my right shoulder, just saying that they do not believe that this is enough. That this is just the first step in moving forward to whatever their next fight is going to be. And, this George Floyd Justice Act, which it has a really great name, unfortunately, is something that would really heavily disarm and disadvantage our police officers, who I believe we need to support in every single way. I'm glad that justice was served to what may have been a bad police officer, but I can tell you the overwhelming majority, 99% of all police officers, are the greatest men and women I have ever met. And so I am urging my friends in the Senate to resist the George Floyd Justice Act, because it strips the body armor off of these men and women. And so, what I genuinely believe is that what the Democrats are doing here is continuing to play chaos politics. They believe that if our country is divided, if our country is pointing just hatred at one another, that they can profit off it and gain more power off it. And that's disgusting. That's not the way that I want to be in government. I want to be someone who come into this country as a uniter. That's why I'm here in politics, because our country is just too daggum divided.
Congressman, as word of a verdict came down and we were waiting for it to be read, I believe that Kevin McCarthy at the same time was officially introducing this move to censure Congresswoman Maxine Waters. Do you believe that that should happen? And do you have any additional information on that and where that stands? There was also word that he was going to try to bring it to a full vote on the House.
Oh, I absolutely think that should have happened. Leadership had made a really strong move of waiting to allow Nancy Pelosi to dole out discipline to her own ranks. But
thank you, Georgia girl.
Pelosi is not here for the American people, so she doesn't care if Maxine Waters incited violence. So I do believe that Maxine Waters should be censured. She should lose her chairmanship, and she shouldn't really be in Congress. If you're going to be going out and trying to incite violence, trying to get Americans to burn our buildings down, to continue to hurt one another, then you shouldn't be here in Congress.
Thank you, LeBron.
We appreciate you talking with this congressman. We were just showing the Attorney General, Keith Ellison of Minnesota. Thank you so much, Congressman. Let's listen in.
Some important historical legacy, if you allow me. In 1968, the Kerner Commission was formed to investigate the causes of uprisings across major American cities. And a man named Dr. Kenneth Clark, a famous African-American psychologist who, along with his equally accomplished psychologist wife, Mamie, contributed to compelling research in the Brown versus Board of Education case. And Dr. Clark testified at the Kerner Commission. And I want to quote you what he said. I read that report, the one in the 1919 riot in Chicago, and it was as if I were reading the report of investigating the committee of the Harlem riot in 1935, the report on investigating the Harlem riot in 1943, and the report of the McCone Commission on the Watts riot. I must say again in candor to you, the members of this commission, it's like a kind of an Alice in Wonderland with the same movie picture reshown over and over again, the same analysis, the same recommendation, and the same inaction. Those are the words of Dr. Clark in 1968. Here we are in 2021. Here we are in 2021, still addressing the same problem. Since Dr. Clark testified, we have seen Rodney King, Abner Louima, Oscar Grant, Eric Garner, Michael Brown, Freddie Gray, Sandra Bland, Philando Castile, Laquan McDonald, Stephon Clark, Atiana Jefferson, Anton Black, Breonna Taylor, and now Dante Wright and Adam Toledo. This has to end. We need true justice. That's not one case. That is a social transformation that says that nobody's beneath the law and no one is above it. This verdict reminds us that we must make enduring systemic societal change. More than a month ago, months before George Floyd was murdered, the Minnesota Public Safety Commissioner John Harrington and I released the recommendations of our working group on reducing deadly force encounters with law enforcement. What all of us in that working group, including law enforcement, wanted is for everyone to go home safe. Anytime someone doesn't, everyone's lives are changed forever. We need to use this verdict as an inflection point. What if we just prevented the problem instead of having to try these cases? We don't want any more community members dying at the hands of law enforcement and their families' lives ruined. We want We don't want any more law enforcement members having to face criminal charges and their families' lives ruined. We don't want any more communities torn apart. One way to prevent this is to
thanks again, Georgia girl.
Relationship where we as a society re-examine the use of force and our old settled assumptions. I'm so proud.
All right,
no problem.
The General of Minnesota, Keith Ellison, talking there, making clear, Heather, that they feel like this was a step, but this is a pattern they feel that has not been fixed, and there is more of a fight to come.
Right, and that's been one of the questions from the very beginning when it comes to whether or not Derek Chauvin could in fact receive a fair trial there in Minnesota, specifically in Minneapolis, because AG Keith Ellison's own son has been leading the way to defund police there in Minneapolis specifically.
He has quite a background, Keith Ellison does.
Himself, yes.
In Congress, yeah. Let's go to Chris Salcedo. Chris, your thoughts about what you're saying?
Pretty much as we feared, guys, what it was going to be. This is a political opportunity for the American left. It's not based on facts. It's not based on anything that is unifying. There's an agenda at play here. And you're seeing it from Keith Ellison. And there's also a clear double standard. Mr. Ellison has his own, shall we say, problems in his past that have never been adjudicated. He's never had to face the music. Look, I think we're going to look back on this trial and see how this all plays out in the coming weeks to see if Maxine Waters' words come back to haunt what many people believe was a just ruling from all counts. All three counts against Derek Chauvin have been found. He was found guilty. Maximum, I believe I'm quoting this right, 75 years in prison for this former police officer. And anybody who watched the horrific video said that might be the proper way to go. But again, you're already seeing the political jockeying, the political maneuvering, and it's all one-sided. It's all the very double standard that these people claim that they are trying to stop, they are trying to institute in their political favor. Of course, I'm talking about socialist Democrats, regardless of race, color, or creed. They have a different agenda that seems to trump all of that, and that is left-wing ideology, guys. We'll probably talk more about this when the Chris Salcedo Show returns to this time slot tomorrow.
And we will look forward to that for sure, Chris. I'm sure that you'll have a lot more to say on it. Thank you so much. We appreciate it as we continue to monitor the crowds both outside of the courthouse and there at George Floyd Square, where things do look to be calmer than anticipated by many. One of those folks, our very own national correspondent, Logan Raddick. Logan, I did want to ask you, earlier before the verdict was read, you said that you were concerned about the crowd. You were legitimately concerned for your safety and the safety of your photographer. How do you feel now? Do you sense a change in the mood of the crowd?
There's definitely a change in the mood of the crowd. Obviously, it's different being daytime. Right now, we actually moved a little bit over to our left down the block because that's where this crowd is now gathered here on South 3rd Avenue. They're really lining the street. But in terms of my safety, I'm not really sure. Because there are some people that say this is a major victory, but there are other people saying that there's a lot of work left to be done. So we don't know how the reaction will be tonight. Obviously, people are excited. There's a lot of angst that has been relieved for some of the people who are George Floyd supporters here. So it remains to be seen how this will all unfold once it becomes nighttime here in Minneapolis. But right now, it's a pretty calm situation. People are chanting and they're happy. But again, there's a long way to go. And obviously, another big case with Dante Wright just about 10 minutes away in Brooklyn Center.
Yeah, interesting you bring that up. Another of the cases, and that has been mentioned by some of the people here. Rob, wanted to get your feel. It looks like what Logan is saying is maybe.
Thank you, 78 notice.
Time right now, it's only 4:52 there. A lot can happen until it gets dark. But at this point, it looks like perhaps a more positive reaction.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't know. It couldn't have gone any better for people that are out there wanting to protest this thing. So, I mean, right now they're getting their way perfectly, and we have to wait for the sentencing, obviously. I mean, again, I thought the one guy that Logan just talked to about 10 minutes ago said it perfectly. He said it had to happen. There's too much violence, too much noise, too much everything. It just reminds you exactly of why these things happen. This is why people protest. This is why they get out and make all this noise and wreak all this havoc because they know it has an impact.
And
in this
talk
case-
about that impact.
No, it's pressure on the scale, right? I mean, they say justice is blind. I don't think it was blind in this case at all. I think you had political pressure. I think you had pressure from all these activist groups going into all this. And I think at the end of the day, people say, you know what? If we acquit this guy, this city is going to burn to the ground. It is going to burn to the ground. So you had a jury that said, you know what? We're going to have to sacrifice this guy to the mob. And that's exactly what I think happened today. Again, you go through all this evidence. I just found more of it. Floyd's friends, who they didn't have to testify in this case because they didn't want to self-incriminate, said that he took some pills in the car. Same day this all happened. He took so many drugs in the car that he fell asleep in the car. They could not wake him up. They couldn't wake him up. He was taking, I guess, Percocet, fentanyl, methamphetamine. I mean, it was just a drug cocktail for a guy who's getting older, a big guy that has a bad heart. And then, you know, he goes in, he tries to pass off a fake $20 bill. The cops get called. Then he decides to resist arrest. And he starts saying that he can't breathe while he's standing up. To me, that says a lot. I mean, if you're saying you can't breathe while you're standing up, and then you resist arrest, you won't get in the cop car, then they have to put you on the ground. Now, how inclined are you going to be to believe somebody who said they couldn't breathe when they couldn't breathe when they were standing up if they start saying they can't breathe while they're laying on the ground too? I mean, it's just going to make you're going to question everything.
Unless he's on a lot of drugs, which he actually did feel bad, which would play into the defense's argument that it was the other conditions that put him in that position, not the officer.
78 notice. You just got to slide the dial across from left to right. Just slide it across.
Get him into an ambulance and take him to a hospital because he had a previous experience where he ate a lot of drugs while he was being arrested and he had to go to the hospital. That was in 2019.
And Officer Chauvin had called for an ambulance as well. That was another thing that they discussed. So he was, taking steps to try to get him help. Let's listen again here in Minneapolis as they continued to chant. Let's hear what they're chanting now. You can't really hear what they're chanting, but I did want to clarify in terms of the charges, and Rob, I know you were discussing this as well, in terms of the sentencing, that will happen in 8 weeks?
Yeah.
And I believe that the possible jail time would be the max that he was charged with, which would be second-degree murder, and for that he could face 40 years. So I think that the max sentence he could receive is 40 years.
Yeah, and am I an expert on Minnesota law? I have no idea. That's what I'm reading. When I read all these news articles, I'm seeing 40 years as a max and the headlines popping up and stuff. So it looks like that would be the max. And who knows how they're going to weigh that. I still maintain that this is going to be such an interesting.
Thank you so much, 78 notice.
How that works, I have no idea, but we're going to see that process start probably immediately. I think that the lawyer for Floyd, the lawyer for Chauvin is going to speak at some point, I would assume. And when he does, I think that's the first thing he's going to say is we're appealing this case.
Well, the thing, we were just talking about the ameliorating effects of what happened on that day, that what Chauvin did may have been part of what led to George Floyd's demise. You're talking about the defense was arguing some of these other things we were all mentioning here, but we haven't even mentioned in specific detail all the things that can be appealed, because that part won't be appealed. But what can be appealed, you've also.
So just giving y'all an update. The judge just ruled that the sentencing will be 8 weeks. That's 2 months. So he's going to sit in jail for 2 months. Now I'm going to give y'all the strategy on that. A person can sit in jail, but they're going to hope that nobody pays attention to it. We got to keep pressure on them no matter what. And we got to keep pressure and we got to keep it going. Like I say, and we got to keep it going. I'm looking at what Angie Walker just said. Angie Walker has said, I never heard anyone saying that could have been used in court. No offense to anyone, but you have to triple check what the media says. I want facts and not theories. Right. But they talking about what Maxine Waters said. That could have been used in court. And what Maxine Waters said, it could be used as overturn of this judgment if they go to appeals court. if they go to appeals court, the judge could overturn it because of what Maxine Waters said. She knew what she was saying, and she knew what she was doing. That's her way of slick trying to keep the colored people on her side, but low-key vouching for the police department. I'm talking about what that man said. His friend said, yeah, go check it. That's why he pleaded the Fifth Amendment. And because if he would have came and told that, they could have came back and locked him up on third degree. Thank you so much, Charlotte. That's why he pleaded the Fifth Amendment. All right, back to it, y'all.
Here on Newsmax as well. We expect to hear from the President of the United States sometime this evening with his reaction to this. We also expect to hear from the Governor of Minnesota. And as we showed you live, Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House, getting ahead of all of them and already coming out.
You know, and it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, we have different areas of the country that will have to deal with this. This is just one location we're looking at. We've also got Portland. Rob, you and I were talking about how there's a state of emergency declared there. And we know that that's been a hotbed, Heather, of rioting in recent months and recent days. Just among the spots.
Well, now we are going to hand it off to Spicer and Company with Lindsay Keith, and we will continue to update you tomorrow on American Agenda from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern. Have a good night, everybody. Stick with Newsmax for continuing coverage of the verdict in the Derek Chauvin trial, guilty on all counts.
So it's crazy. I love Lindsay Keith. Lindsay Keith, hold on, see what she say. Let's see what she's talking about.
Listen.
We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 1, unintentional second-degree murder while committing a felony, find the defendant guilty. This verdict agreed to this 20th day of April, 2021 at 1:44 p.m. Signed, juror 4-person, juror number 19.
Thank you so much, Ann.
Count 2. We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 2, third-degree murder, perpetrating an eminently dangerous.
Thank you, 78 no tears.
Agreed to this 20th day of April, 2021 at 1:45 p.m.
Right. Oh boy.
Jury 4-person, juror number 19. Same caption, verdict count 3. We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 3, second-degree manslaughter, culpable negligence, creating an unreasonable risk, find the defendant guilty. This verdict agreed to this 20th day of April, 2021 at 1:45 p.m.
Well, here's a look from George Floyd Square in Minneapolis as protesters gathered following that verdict that you just heard. The jury reached a guilty verdict on all 3 counts after deliberating for 10.5 hours over 2 different days.
I appreciate you.
Closing arguments yesterday. Minneapolis and the county have been on high alert in anticipation of this verdict. Let's go live to the courthouse in Minneapolis, where our national correspondent Logan Raddick is right now. Logan, thanks for joining us. What was the reaction on the ground when that verdict was read?
Well, the people here were elated, Lindsay. They were cheering. They thought that Derek Chauvin would be found guilty on all 3 charges, and that was exactly what happened today. So people here are jubilant. I'll step out of the shot right now. We'll show you the entire area. So people are very happy, but they say this is just a stepping stone. They say that they want to see systemic change in both the education system and the medical system. They say that this is just the beginning. And keep in mind, we also have the Dante Wright situation going on. His funeral is on Thursday. Al Sharpton will be giving the eulogy there. So even though people are very happy, there is still that sense that they want to see more change, that there could be some unrest here in Minneapolis. Obviously, it's calm. It's very loud right now, but it's still light out. We don't know what will happen tonight. But again, with that other situation here in the Twin Cities area, up the road in Brooklyn Center, who knows if they'll bring their protests over there and try to advocate in that case, because clearly they know they might have had some sort of an impact in the way that the jury decided this. It's not necessarily clear if that's the case, but I mean, this happened. It worked. The guy that they wanted to be guilty on all 3 charges is guilty on all 3 charges. So they're going to continue to make their voices heard, is what people have told me on the ground here in Minneapolis. So this is just the beginning of what we're seeing here tonight.
Before we let you go, I know that there were gates that were put up around the police department in Minneapolis that were closed right before the verdict was read out. What is the scene? Are there cops out there? And are you hearing, you say that you don't know what's going to happen tonight. Are there any whispers that people are going to stay calm or that there might be some unrest?
Well, they're still saying shut it down. I mean, basically, this group believes that, this is their city. They have these city blocks shut down right now, and this wasn't the police shutting these streets down. So, that's the situation here, Lindsay. People are still a little bit concerned about what could happen tonight, but, right now, this is really the culmination of about 11 months of anxiety for people in this area. And also, it is expanded to more than people from the Twin Cities. We've met people from as far away as Florida and California. This has become a tourism location for the trial and also for the memorial of George Floyd.
Logan, thank you so much for giving us your insight there on the ground. Hope to have you back at the end of the show.
Thank you so much, J-Rod.
All right, well, joining us now is Rob Schmidt, who has been covering this story all day long. Rob, what stands out to you as this verdict was read?
What stands out, and we were just talking about it a minute ago, the gentleman that talked to Logan Raddick a little bit ago talked about how this had to happen, he thought. And he seemed like a pretty common sense guy. He didn't seem like he was very partisan. He was just there kind of watching the spectacle unfold. And he just said that there's so much noise, there's so much violence that this had to happen. And I don't even think he meant to indicate what that means. But to me, it said everything about the situation right now and what I think a lot of people are feeling. Everybody that I talk to about this case says that if they don't convict this guy, that this country is going to burn to the ground. And that's exactly the point. That is exactly the point. And that's exactly what BLM, that's exactly what Antifa, that's exactly what Democrats and all their pressure have done to this country. If the idea that justice is blind means anything to anybody, it is not blind in this case at all. We all knew what had to happen to keep last summer from happening again in this country. And so far, we're on a great start to pandering to a mob that hates this country, that has nothing more than a political agenda, and that does not care at all about Black lives. Let's make that perfectly clear. If anybody that's watching right now thinks that BLM has anything to do with Black lives, you need to have your head examined, because it doesn't. It has nothing to do with it. It's just a political agenda. It's a socialist agenda. They hate this country. They hate the West. They hate democracy. This is their vessel. These stories, these cases are their vessel. They do not care about Black lives. They ignore, how many dozens of young Black men are going to die this weekend in big cities all throughout this country? How many are going to die in Chicago? I think more than 20 were shot last weekend in Chicago. Nobody says anything about that. These BLM leaders, they could not care less about any of these stories. They have a horrible problem of violence and crime in the culture, in the inner city culture in this country, and nobody cares about that. Nobody talks about that. They sit and they wait for a cop to finally make a mistake. Out of the millions and millions and millions of police interactions that happen every single year, they sit and they wait for a cop to make a mistake with an African-American, and then they pounce. And you just had a story the other day where they had a guy that was shot by cops and killed, and it was the funniest thing, because it said BLM protesters showed up to it, and then they found out that the guy was white, and then they all turned around and left. And I think that was just a day or two ago. They showed up thinking, ooh, here's a moment. We can make some noise. We can protest. We can stir some stuff up. Oh, it's a white guy? Okay, well, we don't care about that. Nor do they care about any Black person that gets killed in the commission of a crime in this country. Nobody cares about crime. Nobody cares about victims in this country on the left. They couldn't care less if you get shot by a gangbanger. They couldn't care less if you get robbed at gunpoint. They couldn't care less about any of these things. All they care about is crime. And the numbers are the proof. In 2019, in this country, police shot 9 unarmed African Americans, and they shot and killed 9 unarmed African Americans, and they shot and killed 19 unarmed white people in this country. So there's the proof in the pudding right there. And as we know, and as we've said on this network many times before, because we're not scared to tell the truth here, right? We're going to tell the truth. You've had in this country, you have African Americans at 12, 13% of the population are committing more than 50% of the crime, of the violent crime in this country. And when you look at the numbers that say 9 unarmed blacks are shot by police, 19 unarmed whites, you have is racism by police going the other way. You're actually more likely, as far as the numbers go, to be shot and killed by police unfairly or unarmed if you're white than if you're African American. That's the irony of this whole situation. Nobody talks about that. This is all just a propaganda. It's all an agenda. And this is where it leads to. And we have all this political pressure now that was pressed on the scale in this trial. This was not a fair trial. And I think everybody knows that. They should.
Well, thanks, Rob. Don't want to cut you off here, but I hear that Al Sharpton is now speaking. Want to go to him. Take a listen.
There you go. And thank God. Because somehow God made a way. He had mercy. We believe in a God that can even get through the cracks in the jury room and bring conscience and bring truth. And that jury, we want to thank them for letting God give them the strength wherever they are tonight. We want them to know we broke down in tears when we heard the verdict. We had to hold each other and hug in tears because too many nights we've cried. Many of us for decades spent nights in jail. But today we can wipe our tears away and fight on for another day. There's sunlight. We're going to keep going till we bring it for the Eric Gardners and the Breonna Taylors, whose boyfriend is here tonight. Kenny Walker. Sean Bell. So many that did not get this night. This night is for them. Let us pray. Let's lock arms and pray like we can, folks. Where? Come on, Brad. Where's Malone? Yeah, come on. You and Rodney come up front. You know he's hiding now. Brother Chris, get next to the Attorney General there. Let's pray. Dear God, we thank you for giving us the strength to stand together. Sometimes we would question each other. Sometimes we say this is just going to be a waste of time. Somehow you touch us in the midnight hours and teach us to hold on. And that if we would be faithful over a few things, you'd give us the victory over many. We thank you because we know it was not any doing of ours, but your loving kindness and your tender mercy that made tonight possible. Bless those that worked, that made this prosecution something they couldn't deny. Bless those policemen that got on the stand and testified against another policeman. Bless the jury that listened to the evidence and didn't listen to those that may criticize them for doing this. Bless the prosecutor, Keith Ellison, and his staff that did their job, even though they didn't know what the outcome would be. Bless Ben Crump in a special way that worked tirelessly.
All right, you were just listening to civil rights activist and minister Al Sharpton praying there in Minneapolis. We are now joined by Legal Reaction of the verdict, constitutional law expert and author of the new book, The Case Against the New Censorship, Alan Dershowitz. Professor Dershowitz, thanks so much for being here. What is your initial reaction to this verdict?
Well, first, what was done to George Floyd by Officer Chauvin was inexcusable morally. But the verdict is very questionable because of the outside influences of people like Al Sharpton and people like Maxine Waters. Their threats and intimidation and hanging the sort of Damocles over the jury and basically saying if you don't convict on the murder charge and all the charges, the cities will burn, the country will be destroyed, seeped into the jury room because the judge made a terrible mistake by not sequestering the jury. So the judge himself said this case may be reversed on appeal. And I think it might be reversed on appeal. I think it should be reversed on appeal. I think the American Civil Liberties Union, which would be all over this case if it weren't a racially charged case, all Americans who care about due process and liberty should be concerned that the jury verdict may have been influenced by, if not the thumb, maybe even the elbow of the outside pressures, the fears, the threats. Every juror in that room knew about these threats. And when they sit and deliberate, they have to be saying to themselves, consciously or unconsciously, if I were to render a verdict other than a murder verdict, what the consequences will be for me, my family, my friends, my business, that should never, ever be allowed to seep into a jury room. So I have no real confidence that this verdict, which may be correct in some ways, but I have no confidence that this verdict was produced by due process and the rule of law rather than the influence of the crowd.
Okay, so what does an appeal process look like? Is that something that we'll see played out in the next few days, or is it going to take weeks or months?
Oh, more than weeks and months. An appeal will be filed immediately because he's in jail now pending appeal. There are 2 levels of appeal in Minnesota, and then ultimately the case will go to the United States Supreme Court. And I think the United States Supreme Court holds the best possibility for the defense of getting this conviction reversed on the ground that the judge himself suggested the statements made by people outside the courtroom, essentially intimidating jurors and telling them that if they don't come to the, quote, right verdict, there will be violence and consequences and their own lives may be affected. Jurors should never, ever have that fear or influence in their verdicts.
I'm going to ask you this. We had this morning President Biden say that he hoped that they reach the right verdict. He said because the jury was sequestered, that's why he made the comments. Was he out of line by doing that?
I think he waited long enough. I think he would have been wrong to have said it while the jury was not sequestered, when they could have heard his views. Presidents have bully pulpits. But once the jury was sequestered, I think it was okay for the president to do that. Now, he raised expectations. The expectations have been fulfilled. Had they not been fulfilled, had the jury come back with a verdict either not guilty or guilty only of manslaughter, his raising of expectations might have exacerbated the problem. But in the end, he waited until the jury was sequestered. His statements were relatively moderate, so I can't criticize him. I can criticize Waters. I can criticize Sharpton. These folks took what they did right out of the playbook of the Deep South in the 1920s, when prominent public officials would whoop up the crowds in front of the courthouse, demanding conviction of black people and acquittal of white people. And the Supreme Court and other courts reversed convictions based on that, because jurors should not be intimidated or influenced by what goes on outside the courtroom. This judge did not do a good enough job. He just told the jurors not to watch the news. Well, today, most people don't get their information from the news. They get them from social media. They get them from friends and family. They get them even from non-news shows on television. So I don't think the judge did a good enough job in insulating the jury from outside pressures.
You know, and this was such a public case from the get-go. We've been watching this for almost a year now. There aren't many cases like this where you actually have a video of a murder happening or the incident happening. I do have to ask you though, when the judge at the end, he thanked the jury and he said, it will be a few weeks before he reaches a sentence on how many years that Chauvin will spend in jail. I know that depending on it's 40, 25, or 10. What does that look like? And what is his defense lawyer doing right now to try to minimize that potential life in prison?
Well, it is potentially life in prison, and the defense lawyers are preparing a sentencing memorandum which go back into his career. This is a first offense. He's been generally law-abiding. He did have some complaints against him, and they will come out in sentencing, and the judge has some hard decisions to make. But the judge will sentence to a very substantial sentence, which might be the equivalent of life imprisonment for a person the age of Chauvin. And then the appellate process will commence. And there are 3 levels of appeal, 2 in the Minnesota courts, and then 1 to the United States Supreme Court. And I'm sure that the lawyers preserve federal constitutional issues. And so ultimately, the United States Supreme Court may decide this case. Remember the case of Sam Shepard that was very famous. F. Lee Bailey did it. It became a television series. And in that case, the Supreme Court reversed the conviction based on outside pressures. And in other cases as well, convictions have been reversed, not because of what happened inside the courtroom, but because what happened outside the courtroom seeped into the jury box. And that's not acceptable under the rule of law.
So before I let you go real quick, what is the judge using here to determine how long this sentence is? Because record shows that Chauvin has no previous convictions.
Well, unfortunately, he's probably putting his finger up to the wind and seeing what sentence he should impose that wouldn't result in all kinds of riots. The whole judicial system has been corrupted by identity politics and by the weaponization of the criminal justice system toward particular agendas. So I'm not confident this judge will impose the sentence he would normally impose if the world weren't watching. I suspect the sentence will be somewhat higher than what was generally imposed in similar cases.
Professor Dershowitz, thanks for being here to give us insight on this process. Always appreciate your context.
Thank you.
All right. Well, let's bring in former Trump campaign advisor, Steve Cortez. Steve, thanks for being here. Sorry it's on these circumstances, but want to get your initial reaction to this verdict.
Well, look, I trust the process with the constitutional process of jury trials. It is imperfect, but it is more perfect than any other alternative. So I'd like to think that this jury, and I do believe that this jury probably came to the right conclusion. And I think when you look at the courtroom, what actually went on in the courtroom, it was conducted in an eminently fair manner. What I do worry about in terms of the politics of this is are the outside influence of intimidation upon the jury. Of course, I know you've been speaking about Congresswoman Waters, who I think was reprehensible in her tactics, but it's not just on politicians. Also, if you look at the Star Tribune, the flagship newspaper of the Twin Cities, they published detailed biographies of the members of the jury. They put in them everything except for their name. It wouldn't be very difficult for online sleuths to determine who these jurors were. So I hope that some of these jurors choose to speak to the public, to the press. If they do, I'll be very curious to see, did they feel that there was outside pressure upon them? And of course, as Professor Dershowitz was talking about, the judge himself, Judge Cahill, during the conclusion of the trial, said that there are ample grounds already before the verdict was even rendered. There are ample grounds for appeal because of this exact kind of intimidation that I'm talking about. So to me, outside of just this case specifically, but looking at the bigger political and societal issue, the politicization and the potential intimidation of our criminal justice process, that is, I think, something that we as Americans really need to reconcile and reckon with.
I think that's a great point because this has become so political. I was listening to some commentating earlier, and some would say, oh, this trial has completely divided our country. And then other would say, well, it hasn't divided us at all because when you look at this specific incident, anybody who watched that video would say it was unjust, right? And whether you'd agree on how many degrees of murder that Derek Chauvin should be guilty for, everyone could say it was unhumane what happened. But to your point, you have so many people on the left now who are trying to politicize this, and like Maxine Waters. And you even have, I want to read this, the Attorney General Keith Ellison of Minnesota. He came out in a statement and said, I would not call today's verdict justice, but it is accountability. Obviously, you can never get a life back, and we cannot get the life of George Floyd back, and that is unfortunate. But Minneapolis did give a settlement to the George Floyd family of $27 million. And so what the justice system can do has done. And so in some ways, that does feel like justice. So how does the right respond to this to try to help our country heal?
Sure. And by the way, I should mention that Minnesota, that settlement with George Floyd's family was incredibly generous, even by the standards of a lost life, and of course was also given well before this trial had even started. So, to me, if anything, the public, because that's taxpayer money, the public went above and beyond what was required in terms of trying to provide justice. But regarding the politics here, and what is the opportunity to heal for the right wing, and what can the America First movement do in this country? I think it's imperative that we as a society, that we speak loudly against the current situation in America, which is the idea on the left that it's okay, it's permissible to seek political power through violence and through intimidation. And let me be specific here. Cities around America were literally boarded up in anticipation of this verdict. And if it had gone the, quote, wrong way, it's very likely that there would have been a great deal of violence. Hopefully that will not now happen. But the fact that we have to operate that way in the United States of America, this is not a reality that we should accept as okay. We should not accept that as just and permanent. This is something that I believe needs to be changed. We have processes. We just saw a process play out, which is a jury trial, but we have processes to adjudicate differences and controversies in the United States, but it should never be the law of the street, the law of intimidation. We should not have to box up stores, to board up stores simply because a jury trial, a jury verdict is on the way in America. That is an unacceptable situation in this country, and I believe it's a political opportunity for the right, for conservatives, for America First proponents to state loudly that this is unacceptable and that this is not the way our society needs to operate going forward.
Yeah, I hope that is what happens. And I hope that people can see that, there is hope in the justice system. Yes, things need to be fixed and there are issues. But in this case, it played out and justice was served in that manner. And if we can trust that, we don't have to riot in the street. We don't have to burn things. We don't have to burn down small businesses and people's homes. We can do it peacefully as the First Amendment allows. And injustice will come through. Steve, great to have you. Thanks for weighing in.
Thank you.
All right. Well, here with us now to give us his perspective is former Boston Police Chief Dan Linsky. Chief, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
All right. An interesting day for police forces all around the country right now. What is your initial reaction to the verdict?
My initial reaction to the verdict is I was very concerned for the safety and security of offices tonight. Should the verdict not go the way I think it should have went today, that the tensions are there and have been since this incident occurred, where law enforcement would have been in conflict with the community and people on both sides would have been in harm's way. This is an opportunity to heal and an opportunity to move forward in what, I am speaking to my former academy commander, and he had tears coming down thinking about the damage that has been done by this incident, this officer, to the amazing work that law enforcement has done for decades across this country. Now it's a time to move forward and heal and figure out how do we police communities in an effective and efficient manner, keeping people safe, but respecting the safety and security and lives of all.
I know this verdict just came down within the last hour or so, but what has been the reaction from the police community that you have seen so far?
So no one in the police community that I've spoken with since this incident felt that this was justified. There were, conversations about what are the exact proper charges. My own personal opinion is the exact proper charges were distributed today, and the jury spoke loudly and clearly. And I think the evidence spoke loudly and clearly. The police community that I speak with wants to figure out how do we move beyond this incident and other incidents to make sure that we can police communities effectively and efficiently, and at the same time keep police officers safe, where spouses and family members don't have to worry about their police officers going out, because the community is part of the policing process of America, where we all agree on how we police, why we police, the manners, the methods, the tools we use to police. And if the police officers follow the agreed upon rules and do the right thing, they will be supported. If they do what Derek Chauvin did and violate every tenor and institution of our discipline, then they will be held accountable. And that's the appropriate response, and people need to know where they stand. And hopefully we can begin to rebuild trust of this issue and move forward to where we can work together to keep people safe.
How do you rebuild that trust in a time when we are very divided on people's viewpoint of the police?
A day at a time, a relationship at a time. Mayors, city managers, police commissioners across this country should be reaching out to the community. They should be reaching out to the community who agrees with them and shows up to the police events like Coffee with a Cop and what have you, and also reach out to the loudest and harshest critics and bring them in for conversations, directions on idea, look at what's happening in their version of policing in America, try and convince them what you see the version of policing in America is. We are all looking at this from different opinions, and we need to come to consensus together. But this is an opportunity to do just that.
Chief, thanks so much for being here with us on this day and giving us your insight. Hope to have you back soon.
Thank you very much. Be safe.
All right. All right, well, let's bring in the host of Newsmax, Heather Childers. Heather, thanks for being with us of American Agenda.
Hey, Heather.
Hi, Lindsay. Great to be here with you. It's been a long couple of hours as we've waited for that verdict to be read. Some folks really thinking that it came very quickly, just 10 hours and 20 minutes, I think specifically, that the jury sequestered and came up with this verdict. Didn't ask any questions either. A lot of people were surprised by that. But then once the verdict was announced, guilty on all three charges, second degree, third degree, and second degree manslaughter, folks perhaps anticipated that since the verdict came down so quickly.
Yeah, it was interesting to see. I think people were curious when this was going to be, but to your point, it was such a quick turnaround that it was almost like they would all have had to have the same agreement on him being guilty of all three charges. Luckily, it seems like everyone in Minneapolis is staying calm. They're celebrating. This is what they wanted. This is what many people have been wanting for a long time. A lot of tears, a lot of hugs in Minnesota tonight.
Yeah, but then at the same time, not enough. They don't want to stop here. They want to talk about police reform. As we were watching live shots, I don't know if you were able to see it earlier outside at George Floyd Square, where the incident happened back May 25th, 2020, and he died. They were putting up on the sign there across the street directly at a little gas station area. They were saying justice served with a question mark. So there's much more to be discussed, as you and some of your guests have been talking about from here. We also know that many politicians, the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, not the least of which, immediately came out and started talking about politics and started to talk about legislation that they want to move forward as a result of this and jumping off of this verdict.
Yes, and we even had the Attorney General there in Minneapolis saying that this is not justice, this is just accountability. And so we're hearing a double narrative here. Heather, thanks for being with us. We are going to be right back with continued coverage of breaking news of the verdict in the Derek Chauvin trial. Don't go away.
That's how I feel about it. Well, Maxine should not make a difference. They are making it political. The evidence, the testimonies are overwhelming. That's true. But what's going to happen is they're going to say what Maxine said is going to overshadow. Matter of fact, let me pull up what Maxine Waters said. Hold on. Let's see. Hold on.
difficult time. This is a very difficult time in the history of this country. Despite the fact that we know that people of color have been killed too often, unarmed young men, in particular black men, have been killed. We know that we are now coming to the end of the George Floyd trial, and that I suppose the closing arguments are going to be made on that case coming Monday. And we're really just almost at the beginning of what is happening with our young man, Dante Wright, who was killed, and that we have to persist in calling for justice. We have to let people know that we're not going to be satisfied unless we get justice in these cases. And so I just could not sleep, I could not rest, I could not be satisfied without coming here to let the family know, and the friends know, and the people of this community know, and all those who have organized for justice know that I stand with you, and I'm going to stand not only with you, but continue to fight in every way that I can for justice, for justice.
That's one. That's one. Hold on.
About fighting for racial justice. In 1992, she was in her first term in Congress when parts of her LA district saw the violence and unrest after the acquittal of those officers, also caught on tape. It was in the beating of Rodney King. She pushed to invite herself to the White House to press those issues with then President George H.W. Bush, and has worked on them her entire career. We are rejoined by Democratic Congresswoman Maxine Waters of California, chair of the Financial Services Committee. Good evening to you.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for asking.
Well, I'm delighted to be here with you.
It's great to have you back. I know we're in a slight delay. You're keeping safe and everything?
Yes, absolutely. It's a challenge, but we have to do it. And one of the things I want to do is have all of us serve as good examples by making sure we do the social distancing and we wear our masks, and we're not, creating large crowds and attending large events.
Yep. I hear you on that. As a policymaker and a leader, you using this platform to remind people of that. I suppose, Congresswoman, I want to pick up where we left off in our last conversation, because you said something that resonated with me, and I heard some viewers who I hear from time to time notice it too, which is for all your work, which we mentioned, you were giving credit, saying the protesters pushed farther and got policymakers in Congress to move more than some of the professionals. Now we're in this place where you and Speaker Pelosi and others have led this House bill. We reported on that. We're seeing this action in various courtrooms, including what I mentioned today. And obviously, life goes on. We're not seeing all the protests to the same degree, although we continue to report on those aspects. What do you see as the next step or phase in this movement?
Well, I think there are several steps to be taken. One is we have to really take a look at the kind of crimes that are committed by the people that we pay to protect and serve us, and see if they fall in the category of civil rights violations. And I think that we have to take a look at that because we have been referring some of these crimes to the Department of Justice, and they have been oftentimes rejected, or people didn't seem to be quite sure whether or not they were captured by the civil rights laws, and I think we've got to pay a lot of attention to that. The other thing that I would like to see happen, aside from what we do at the federal level, I would like to see more pressure put on the members of city councils and mayors They hold the purse strings. They're the ones with the budgets of the police departments. They're the ones who determine whether or not they get raises. They're the ones who determine whether or not they're paying, lots of overtime, as we see in Los Angeles. They're the ones who decide what the pensions are and whether or not they're going to embellish them, et cetera, et cetera. They have not used their influence or their power because they have been made, to believe that if they do some of these things, that the police unions will organize lots of money against them and cause them not to be reelected. So the police protective leagues have had an outsized role in determining what city council members and mayor.
President Biden is lying about you. In the Washington.
I believe I witnessed a murder.
Bro, he has not moved, not one time.
In over a minute.
I will determine when your answer is done.
Okay, well.
And so, do not argue with the court.
Placement of the knee is towards the back and the back right side of Mr. Floyd's neck.
Do you feel that your decision not to testify is a voluntary one on your behalf?
Yes, it is.
Just some of the highlights of the Derek Chauvin murder trial there. After weeks of testimony and closing arguments, the jury will now decide Chauvin's fate. The prosecution called 38 witnesses over 11 days. The defense brought 7 witnesses to the stand, and Judge Peter Cahill also rejected a defense request for a mistrial. This after California Congresswoman Maxine Waters called on protesters to get, quote, more confrontational if Chauvin isn't convicted of murder. And joining us now to talk about the legal implications of all of this, constitutional law attorney and host of Just the Truth, a podcast, Jenna Ellis. Jenna is also the former senior advisor and counsel to former President Trump. And back with us as well, trial attorney Robert Barnes. Guys, great to have you with us. Jenna, first to you. We're going to talk about President Biden and his comments in just a moment. We heard Jen Psaki commenting on that. But let's talk about Judge Cahill first. He called Waters' comments abhorrent and disrespectful to the rule of law and the judicial bench. And here is President Biden just moments ago on the upcoming verdict.
I'm praying the verdict is the right verdict, which is, I think it's overwhelming in my view.
Now, Jenna, we just heard Jen Psaki say President Biden felt like it was okay to say those things considering the jury is sequestered. But when you have, so much tension here, you have protesters on the streets ready to go. I mean, what does this do ultimately to the specter of due process in this case?
Well, it could be influencing the actual jury because you never know if any of the jury is actually looking at the media or what they're actually doing while they're sequestered. But this is definitely also influencing the court's public opinion. And as Biden knows very well, just like Maxine Waters does, this is an attempt to justify a verdict in their opinion of how they want it to happen. And then if the jury decides to acquit, then they will basically be condoning any of the riots that are going to happen. And so this is completely irresponsible for Biden to have an opinion here. He's not on the jury. This is unfortunately undermining due process. It would have been much more responsible as the president of the United States to give credence to due process, to remind the country that they're not sitting on the jury. There are 12 people that have the fate of justice in their hands, and it was an opportunity completely missed.
In so many of these cases, there is a conflation of the most sensational aspects of these cases, Robert. And when you look at the Dante Wright case, the officer there, Kim Potter, faces some of the same charges. How does the jury sequestered right for the Derek Chauvin trial, but the jury pool for Kim Potter's trial is out there. And again, when you hear Joe Biden talking about this stuff, you hear some of the other same faces, Benjamin Crump, who is involved in all these cases. How does this impact the jury pool, the process of due process in the court of public opinion? How important is that?
Well, in particular, it's because these are elected officials. I mean, what the judge in the Chauvin case requested was he only made one request throughout the trial, and he repeated it yesterday. He asked elected officials to please refrain from giving any opinion about the case until the jury returns its verdict. And yet, within hours after that, less than 24 hours in total, you had the mayor of Minneapolis, the mayor of St. Paul, county officials the governor of the state of Minnesota, and the Democratic president all give their opinions about the case.
Yeah.
So that's how much they respect the judicial branch. That's how much they respect our judicial process. That's how much they respected the judge in this case.
Mm-hmm.
They are attempting to try the case in the court of public opinion and damage the ability for Derek Chauvin and, as you know, other defendants to get a fair trial in Minneapolis.
Now, Jenna, the judge seemed to kind of take a step back after he criticized Maxine Waters and said, well, you know, she's a member of Congress. Her words really don't mean that much in this situation. But we know words mean a lot. She doesn't want to, they want to impeach a president over the words that he says, but her words don't mean anything.
Yeah, well, obviously Congress needs to deal with Maxine Waters, and I think that that Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene is right to file that motion yesterday to expel Maxine Waters from Congress, and Kevin McCarthy looking at censure. Words absolutely do matter, but as far as the impact on the trial, let's not forget that there is a person sitting in trial, and these are very serious charges, and our justice system requires due process. And in my view, this is something from a legal perspective that the judge should declare a mistrial. I mean, this is something that is egregious. It goes beyond, well beyond the pale. And I think that the judge was right in his initial assessment that even if there isn't a mistrial declared, it's setting it up for being overturned on appeal. And that will just drag this out in the court of public opinion if there is a guilty verdict here. And so let's not forget, due process is required because the true meaning of justice is not what the Democrats think social justice is.
Right.
They think that justice is subjective according to their whim. They're not looking at the evidence. Joe Biden hasn't sat there and watched this entire trial. He has nothing whatsoever.
Well, I hope not, Jenna. He's the president of the United States. You know, he has other things to do. Robert, real quickly on this, you know, we talk about the specter of due process. And I think when you take a step back and look at some of the reporting on this, it's lost on some people nowadays that it is not Derek Chauvin's job to prove he is innocent. It is the state's job to prove he is guilty. And when you listen to a lot of these politicians, they don't seem to take that into account with their comments.
Well, it's even worse. You had legal analysts for NBC and CNN complain about the defense lawyers doing their job and talking about the presumption of innocence and reasonable doubt, the core of our criminal justice process. So what's happened in this case is they are trying to take mob justice and take it into the courtroom using media pressure and political pressure to do so. And it makes the Chauvin trial precedent far more impactful than simply Derek Chauvin or even policing in America. This is about whether mob justice will take over our courtrooms. That's the risk that's posed.
Yeah, I mentioned Kim Potter too, because after this trial is over, we're going to be right back in the same situation again with the Dante Wright case, and it's going to happen over and over again this summer. Great to see you both, Jenna Ellis, Robert Barnes. We appreciate the legal analysis, guys. Thanks so much.
Great to see you, John.
All right.
Hi, I'm a Breckenberg here. If you like this video, there's a whole lot more to see. His words mattered.
They're waiting for surgery.
So, like I say, I believe he's guilty. I believe he's guilty through and through. But their puppet Maxine Waters might have threw a wrench into this whole situation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end this at 6:48. I'll be back at 8 p.m. Let's have a discussion. Let's have a discussion about it. All right? thank y'all. I thank everybody that donated. I thank everybody that set out with me. But then watch this. So hey, I thank everybody. But that's all I can say. I thank everybody for rocking with me. And we're gonna do it again at 8 p.m. All right. Y'all be blessed. I'll see y'all then.
What you gonna do now? Hope you're ready, 'cause I'm really about to